Whitley County Plan Commission meeting of June 19th, 2024. I welcome you all here. Thank you for your participation and your interest. We appreciate that. Before we get started tonight, or as we get started, probably the most important thing that we're going to do tonight is just to pay respect to our country. So if you all would please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance before we get started. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we're ready for roll call. We could probably expedite it and just say that everybody is here and present, but I'll let you go through it for formality.
All right, Travis Baker.
Here.
Chad Banks. Here. Dane Drew.
Here.
Brent Emerick.
Here.
Jack Green.
Here.
Thor Hodges.
Here.
Mark Johnson.
Here.
Kim Kurtz-Seslar.
Here.
Joe Wolf.
Here.
John Woodmansee.
Thank you for that. Item 3 on the agenda is the consideration and adoption of previous meetings, the minutes from the previous meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as they were presented to you, please?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second that. A motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll call for a vote, please.
Travis Baker. Chad Banks.
Yes.
Dane Drew.
Yes.
Brent Emerick.
Yes.
Jack Green.
Yes.
Mark Johnson.
Yes.
Kim Kurtz-Seslar.
Yes.
Joe Wolf.
Yes.
And Thor Hodges.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is administration of oath to the witnesses. So what that means is that if there's anybody here tonight that plans on speaking, maybe if you don't plan on speaking, but you think you might, or maybe if you just don't have any idea that you're going to, you might want to go ahead and do the oath anyway. But Brent is going to administer an oath to you, just essentially promising that what you're going to have to say tonight is unbiased truth.
All right, if you would please raise your right hand and stand up if you are planning to speak this evening on any of the topics. So do you swear and affirm that all of your speaking on tonight's cases will be the truth? If so, say I do.
Thank you for that. If someone ends up getting the bug to speak a little bit earlier or later that didn't raise your hand, just please let us know and we'll re-administer the oath to you just to make sure that we're doing things properly. We'll move on to old business, and having none, then we will move straight into new business. The first item on the agenda is 24W subdivision 10 Findley/Trump. Could we have a staff report on that, please?
Yes, you may. Let me get the right slide up here. There we go. So the first case we have tonight is the Findley-Trump subdivision. It is a kind of a goofy mess here, so I'm gonna throw it up here so you can kind of see what we're talking. The property is located up on Steer Road on the east side of Steer. If you look at the map, it is currently 4 individual parcels. One of the parcels is part of one subdivision. Another parcel is a lot of another subdivision. So what their intentions are to combine these 4 properties into one tax parcel. So kind of cleaning up some of the odds and ends parcels that are included in their property. Here is a diagram of the property itself as it appears on the plat. So from the 4 to the 1 individual, it does appear to meet all of the code requirements and actually makes it more of a conforming lot than what the situation was before. All the setbacks were appropriate. We've reached out to health department for comment. Obviously, a regular condition of our approval of the plat is that they do meet the health department requirements. However, currently they do. With there being no new construction proposed at this time on the property, health department had no issues on it. Here is an overlay showing the aerial view as well as the yeah, the overlay over the aerial view, just to show where everything lines up and where the property lines are. The blue lines on there were the original property lines for the individual parcels. And the two conditions that were suggested by staff were to comply with any recommendations of the health department, as well as the standard secondary plat approval to be delegated to plan commission staff. So have you any questions for me?
Thank you, sir.
You are welcome.
At this time, I'll ask, is there a representative here to speak about this request? And as with everyone tonight, when you come forward to the podium, if you would just state your name and your address, and then the floor will be yours.
Andrew Findley, 6200 North Spear Road, Columbia City. We just recently purchased the property and was going over the property requirements and looking at putting an invisible fence in, and found just a mess in the property lines and whatnot. So we just decided to clean it up and make one property. It's called Tru Find Acres. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I will open up a public hearing and ask, is there anyone that would like to come forward to speak on behalf or in opposition of this request? Last call. And I see no one, so we will close the public hearing and I will turn it over to the commission for your favor.
I move to approve 24 West Subdivision 10 with recommendations of staff.
Second.
I have a motion by Dane. I'm not sure who the second was. Kim?
Mhm.
With a motion and a second, now I will open the floor for further discussion. Hearing none, we'll go to the roll call for a vote, please.
Joe Wolf,
Aye.
Kim Kurtz-Seslar,
Aye.
Mark Johnson,
Aye.
Jack Green,
Yeah.
Brent Emerick,
Yes.
Dane Drew,
Aye.
Chad Banks,
Aye.
Travis Baker,
Aye.
and Thor Hodges.
Yes. Sir, your request is passed. You can certainly stay here for the entire meeting or you're free to go. Move on to the second item on the agenda, 24W vacate 1 and 24W subdivision 11, titled as Smock. And we will ask for a staff report, please.
Certainly. This is a little bit of a different situation that we normally have with the subdivision. This was originally platted as a one lot area. So the vacation part of this petition, there's actually two petitions. I'm just hearing them kind of together. So we'll have to have a decision on both petitions. You can do that as one motion. You can do it as separate, but both will have to be stated in the motion. So currently it's a one lot subdivision lot. If you can see there, that entire parcel is its own lot. So what the intention is to vacate the existing platted lot, as you can see there, and then have a subdivision go into its same place, which is a two lot subdivision as shown here. However, the platted two lots does not take up the entirety of the original lot. Therefore, the remaining part of that lot is going to be combined with property that they own also to the east. So as well as in the original plat, there was right of way dedicated to the west at the roadside. That is going to remain. So it would just be that lot 1 area that gets vacated, and then a 2 lot subdivision in that same area, with the remainder being combined with the property to the east. So as you can see in this overlay, it shows where the original lot was, as well as the 2 new proposed lots are, with your easements, with your setbacks, and then the L, I guess sideways L shape that goes on the north side of that original parcel to the east back to the wooded area. That section will be combined with the parcel to the east, which is a larger portion. Conditions of approval is that in the platted area have changed so that it defeats the original purpose of the original plat. So these are the criteria for the vacation, and it's in public interest to vacate all or part of the plat, and the value of that part of the land in the plat not owned by the petitioner will not diminish by the vacation. Some of those, with this being a new subdivision going over the top, doesn't really pertain to this one because we are immediately doing a subdivision over the top of it, but those are the criteria of the plat vacation, and they're all met. Proposed conditions, unless the sanitary sewer is to be utilized, 2 septic sites per lot to be determined and approved by the health department. Standard subdivision condition. Add a notation that a mutual private drain tile as described in that section is located on the property and activities shall not affect flow of the tile. Add a notation that the driveway should be located near the south side of lot 1 and north side of lot 2, subject to final approval by the county highway department. We did receive comment from the engineer, county engineer, that site distance may be an issue, so to restrict the locations of where that driveway could be located. Then secondary plat approval delegated to plan commission staff. The vacated remainder acreage must be combined to the adjacent parcel. That's a requirement due to the fact that these will be the 2 subdivided lots, and that the only way to make it a legal entity is for it to be combined with that adjacent property. And the right of way previously dedicated in Arrowhead Section 2 is not vacated. So that right of way that was dedicated will not be vacated with the plat. And that's all I have for you, Mr. President. Have any questions for myself?
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
At this time, I'll ask, is there a representative of this request that would like to come forward and explain exactly what you're requesting from us tonight, please? Well, we know what you're requesting. Just come up and speak on it.
Phil Smock, 6250 East State Road 14, Columbus City. We bought this property a few years ago from Mrs. Byall, and with intention maybe we'd build a house there. We own adjoining 40 acres. But it got to a point where we're too old. I'm not gonna build a house. I'm done. But we do have 2 boys that live in Fort Wayne, and and they're not ready to build, but I'm trying to do the paperwork and get all sorted ahead of time. And so that's why we're doing it now. And there may be nobody doing anything for a few years, and we'll just keep on farming it as we are today. But I'd like to get everything done. I'm not gonna live forever. I'm not sure I got another 10 years left in me, so I kind of like to get this out of the way for them. So that's our plans.
Is it, I understand, is this for your boys?
Building
If they want to eventually sometime, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They live in Fort Wayne. In fact, the one boy that got the grandkids, they're 8 and 6. They can't even go in the backyard and play by themselves because they got some rough kids in the neighborhood, and their parents said you can't go in the backyard. Can't even sit on the front porch by himself. So he's looking definitely to get out of Fort Wayne. So.
Thank you, sir. And I will open up a public hearing. Anybody that would like to speak on behalf of this request or in opposition to it, now would be your time to come forward, please. Final call. I'm seeing no one coming forward, so I will close the public hearing. I will turn it back over to the commission, and I would suggest that we address the vacate first and separate these into 2 separate motions.
If I understand it correctly, we're looking for a motion to vacate the one, and I would make a motion for that. I don't know exactly how to put that, but I would make a motion to do the vacate.
24W vacate one with the
Yeah.
guidelines from the,
Yes, correct. Oh, I see it here. I see it. I'm sorry.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, but I already have a second down here.
Oh, sorry.
Nope, you're fine. Appreciate 2 seconds rather than none. Is there any, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion, please? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll call for a vote.
Joe Wolf. Aye. Kurtz-Seslar.
Aye.
Mark Johnson.
Aye.
Jack Green.
Aye.
Brent Emerick. Dane Drew.
Aye.
Chad Banks.
Aye.
Travis Baker.
Aye.
Thor Hodges.
Yes. So we'll move forward then to 24W subdivision 11 request.
I'll make a motion that we approve 24W subdivision 11 with the recommended conditions.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion, please? We'll go to the vote, please.
Travis Baker.
Aye.
Chad Banks.
Aye.
Dane Drew.
Aye.
Brent Emerick. Jack Green.
Aye.
Mark Johnson.
Aye.
Kurtz-Seslar.
Aye.
Joe Wolf. Thor Hodges.
Yes. Moving forward then to item number 3, 24W subdivision 12 Ingram. Staff report, please.
Give me one moment to find my position here. Okay, Ingram Estates, Section 2. This is going to be a one-lot subdivision that will be, let's try to get a picture up here to show you exactly what it is, but the proposal is a one-lot subdivision with a 30-foot right-of-way easement. I'm going to show you in a minute on this picture why we did this as a right-of-way easement instead of a dedication of right-of-way. And it's for a new building lot for a family member as well. Platting is required due to the previous splits of the lot in 2018. However, no rezoning is required. So if you look at the screen here, it shows his entire property that he has right now. The lot to the south of that is one that was previously split. With the existing parcel that he has now and the new lot that was split off, so now I'm going to change and call that the old lot that was split off, was platted with easements as well as a right-of-way easement, a 30-foot right-of-way easement on the roadside. Due to the new lot being just north of that, the right-of-way easement as it were platted in the original plat matches with what we are proposed here of doing a right-of-way easement in lieu of dedicated right-of-way. So that's why it's that way on the plat. If you'll notice on this next picture, I believe, yes, you can see the lot to the south, and just a little closer view. It's going to be at the south end of that parcel, extending from east to west. The proposed lot size is 225 feet. If you look at this plat also, you'll notice that there are no utility easements on the perimeter. The reason for that is there's not really a necessity for those to be in place. The parcel to the south, where we usually recommend a 10-foot utility and drainage easement on each side of property line, the parcel to the south has a 20-foot utility easement, which is adequate. The other at the back, with it being a long parcel for utilities to go through that to reach the parcel to the west, they would more than likely come from the north. We've reached out to the utility companies and they are fine with there not being a utility easement on that, on those borders. It will still show the 10-foot side yard setback. As included in there also is the setback for primary structures and accessory structures, as well as the right-of-way easement on the roadside. Here is an overlay of the parcel, the new parcel over the existing. As you can see, the parcel goes all the way from east property line to west property line. The size and ratio of width to depth of this parcel was heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals and had approval to have this size of parcel. There is a code that we're not exactly sure why it's in there, but it requires that the depth of a lot not exceed 3 times the width. It did not seem to play favor to this case, more benefit. Therefore, the variance was granted for the depth to be greater than 3 to 1 to the width. I believe it was agreed upon to go as much as 4 to 1, which this meets that in all counts. So proposed conditions, unless sanitary sewer is to be utilized, 2 septic sites per lot are to be determined and approved by the health department prior to issuance of a building permit for primary structure. There is possibly sanitary sewer available to that property. Health department may require them to hook up to that sewer versus have septic, but the lot size, width, and all that is to the standard of a septic served site. So it is capable of doing either, and it depends on what health department's requirements are. And then last is the secondary plat approval delegated to plan commission staff. That's normal. Any questions from me?
Thank you, sir.
You are welcome.
Is there a representative of this request that would like to come forward and speak on its behalf? This would be the time, please.
My name is Ryan Pepper, 3490 North Etna Road. I am a surveyor for Walker and Associates Land Surveyors, and we did the platting on this. I'm not going to bore you with everything that Brent just went through, but again, it's this new subdivision matches the same guidelines as the previous plat that was done just to the south. He's leaving about 11 acres left to the north. And like Brent said, the variance was granted by the BZA. And I can answer any questions as far as the layout of the plat if necessary.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And now we will have a public hearing. If there's anyone that would like to speak on behalf or in opposition of this request, now is your time to come forward. Last call. I see no one moving forward, so I will close the public hearing and turn it over to the commission, please.
I'll make a motion to approve 24W subdivision 12, subject to staff's suggested conditions.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion, please? Hearing none, we'll go to roll call for the vote, please.
Travis Baker,
Aye.
Chad Banks,
Yes.
Dane Drew,
Aye.
Brent Emerick,
Yes.
Jack Green,
Aye.
Mark Johnson,
Aye.
Kim Kurtz-Seslar,
Aye.
Joe Wolf,
Aye.
Thor Hodges.
Yes. Okay, we'll move forward then to the fourth item on the agenda, 24W rezone -2, Emerick. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr.
president, and Brent hopefully has done a good job. So it sounded like he did the couple minutes I heard. So he will need to step away though, right? Yep. So I'll be back shortly. Appreciate his assistance while I was up in Churubusco. So onward to the rezoning case. So 24W REZ2 is a request for a rezoning of approximately 119 acres plus or minus, currently zoned AG agricultural, consisting of 3 parcels, 2 near the southwest corner of Sayrd 14 and 600 East. In the staff report, I call those 2 combined the eastern parcel, and 1 on 700 South between 400 East and 500 East, and I refer to that as the western parcel. Because they are being rezoned to one zoning district, even though they're separate parcels and they're in common ownership, we do allow for this to be heard as one singular case. If it was multiple parcels, multiple rezonings, we would have to break those out. So just FYI, in case you were wondering. Currently, both parcels are used primarily for agriculture. The 2 on the east side do have residences on them. The one on the west has 1 that I believe was split off not terribly long ago. The request is to rezone the parcels to AGP, agricultural production. As has been done by this petitioner before, there is no proposed change in land use. The intention is to extend AGP throughout many of the properties they own. They own quite a few more that aren't proposed to be zoned AGP. But using the intention and the purpose of AGP for significance of the zoning map showing that it is for agricultural for long term, and probably extending beyond the scope of the planning horizon of the comprehensive plan. So we're talking at least 20 years, give or take. There in the table, you can see the current surrounding zoning districts and uses. The western parcel is completely surrounded by AG agricultural, primarily agricultural and residences surround that property. Notably, a little bit farther to the west, you do have Stable Acres, which is a fairly sizable subdivision, but is also an older subdivision. The eastern parcel does have slightly fewer residences, although one of the cases you just heard is a subdivision adjacent to it, only 2-lot plat. But there are more zoning districts adjacent to the eastern parcel. As you can see, there's commercial and industrial to the north side of Sayrd 14 and AGP to the south and southwest of the proposed area, also owned by the petitioner. Going on then to reference materials. So highlighted in blue are the 2 areas, 3 parcels, 2 areas. Highlighted in purple are the plats in the vicinity as well. Any number of plats. They could be 1 lot, 2 lot, 3 lot, on up to, like I said, Stable Acres has 70, I believe, give or take. This is the zoning map. The light green color is the existing AG agricultural. The dark green color is AGP. Gray is industrial. The red spot there at 14 and 600 East is GC general commercial. State Road 14 goes across here for reference. 600 East, 500, 400, and so on. Just in case we need it for a bit more of a reference as we enter into discussions, these are just closer views of each of the west and east areas in case we need to refer to those. For everyone's reference, this is the future character and land use map from the current comprehensive plan, and then zooming in into the Jefferson Township area. The western parcel is definitely in an area that is designated rural agricultural. The eastern parcel is, if you use 600 as the dividing line, which it appears to be, but of course, the comprehensive plan is a bit soft on the edges, and that's with intention. But it would be on the rural agricultural side of 600, the eastern side being mixed rural being the area that we expect both farms and development to be occurring over the planning horizon. Again, next 15, 20 years, rural agricultural being more primarily rural and agricultural. And this is, again, outlined in the comprehensive plan. I'm not going to read all of that. You have read the comprehensive plan, so you've seen this, but again, just highlighting a couple things. The intent of the rural agricultural character is to conserve agricultural land and minimize incompatible land uses. Again, minimize incompatible land uses. Promote the economic development in the county while preserving its rural character. And then the guidelines there kind of give you some strategies for how this should be placed and what should be going on there. The expected primary uses for the rural agricultural character area, of course, primarily agricultural, lower and moderate intensity CFOs, and other agricultural uses. Single family residential primarily, secondary uses, slightly higher intensity agricultural, ag-related businesses, smaller scale commercial, retail, institutional, and two-family residences. And you might recall that with our most recent text change, we added into the AG agricultural district two-family dwellings as special exception, and that was respecting the comprehensive plan and offering another avenue for residences to grow. Not really relevant to this case, but just wanted to point that out since it was on here. These are the actual zoning district stated intents. On the left are AG and on the right is the AGP. In bold there on the left is the text that was added in 2018 to the intention and on the right in bold to better describe what each of those districts are. So the bold for the AG is that the district should allow farm and residential uses to coincide in appropriate rural areas. AGP kind of refines that similar thought, but refines it more, says this district should maintain large and developed areas for productive agricultural uses and intense agricultural related uses. Again, the idea of maintaining large tracts for that agricultural and the idea that this is for planning for ag for the future. Permitted uses for both on the left AG, AGP on the right. The number of permitted uses is somewhat longer on AG than AGP. Some of the differences being that the single family dwelling for AGP should be related to the ownership or use of the land. Of course, AG, single family dwellings could be any sort of activity, any sort of residence. The big difference, though, as we've seen before, is the difference between special exception uses. The AG special exception use list is significant. And again, recently we added a couple more to that list with our recent text amendment that was adopted in January. But the AGP special exception use list is just those 4 items. I went into detail with comments, as I usually do with each one of these criteria in the staff report. I'm not going to go through each one here, especially since we've kind of talked about this before, both with the petitioner's previous case, and then we just heard one a couple miles away for another petitioner. So many of the same thoughts carry over. Basically, this comes down to, in your recommendation, is the proposal something that will protect agriculture for long term as suggested? Is this an appropriate area? Do we already have a lot of development encroachment in this area that maybe AGP isn't necessarily the best fit? Or even if it is, AGP would still protect that agriculture for a long time. And of course, keep in mind that the uses that do come along with each one of the districts. So with that highlight of the staff report, any questions for me?
If I'm right, Nathan, neither one of these property sizes meet the requirements for confined feeding operation. You have to have 80 acres for confined feeding operation.
That is not correct. They both would.
Okay, I believe you have to have 80 acres for confined feeding operation.
Let me grab the zoning code and confirm that.
Is that just for class 3?
That, I believe, is just for class 3.
You stated earlier that the eastern parcel could tie on to the other ones.
Correct.
Is how that would, but the western parcel's 77.9, so.
Yeah, the western parcel, you might be able to do a small CFO. There is.
Good right now.
Correct. AG does allow for class 1 CFO by right. There is a open legal drain that runs through the middle of that property, which when you go through the IDEM permitting, of course, that would come into play and would severely restrict placement, as well as just practicality of crossing that. Again, I'm not trying to make the case for the petitioner. It sounds like it. I'm just stating what's there.
Okay, I see that.
Okay.
Any other questions for Nathan, please? Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Is there a representative of this request that would like to come forward and speak on his behalf, please?
Good evening. My name is Sonia Emerick. Address is 5865 East State Road 14, Columbia City, Indiana. Here asking to zone additional property that we did not have when we rezoned our other property that was eligible for AGP. We've gained the 2 large parcels since that time, and it's just continuing to be our passion to have large agriculture, have agriculture in our area in Whitley County as an agricultural county. And we're simply just rezoning 2 additional parcels that we've gained. Plus we're doing the house because it's connected and surrounded by AGP. So we put that one in too. Any questions?
Thank you very much. We will now open a public hearing. Anybody who will come forward to speak either in support of this project or in opposition of it, now would be your time to again come forward, state your name and your address, and then the podium is yours.
I'm Phil Houth, and I live at 4372 East, 700 South. I would like to see it stay the way it is, because I don't believe that, I believe in agriculture, and I'd like to see it stay in agriculture, but I want it to stay the way it is because I'm afraid of the stipulations change when it goes over to the other one. All the research I did, there's a different stipulations for the 2 different programs. And I want to see it stay the way it is in agriculture. I don't want it changed to the other. And I'm kind of concerned about the drainage too. You know, I realize it's farm ground, you can haul manure on it. I don't have a problem with that. But I want to make sure that it always abides by the rules that are set, you know, for everybody to follow. And I think that's about all I got to say. Oh, and I'm curious, is the 2 Emericks combined? Is he part of the Emerick farming or?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
He is.
You know, I was just curious, you know, I wanted to make sure that, you know, is he going to vote on this?
Hasn't got to the point to where he's going to declare that or not, but that's his decision. And
That's a good question, you know.
It is, but if you stick around, it'll be very evident which way he goes or doesn't go. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm Steve Farringer. I have property at 4224 East 700 South, Columbia City, which happens to be within 100 feet of adjoining the parcel that's on 700 South. And so that parcel is what my comments are directed to. I have not been trained in the art of public speaking, so hopefully you'll just accept my reading a statement.
that's fine.
When I purchased this property nearly 10 years ago, of course, I verified that the property I was purchasing and the surrounding area was zoned agricultural. Since then, I have not had any issues with agricultural use in the surrounding area. But now you are considering what to me is a radical change of zoning. The property immediately across the road from me. If the proposed zoning would have existed at the time, I never would have purchased my property. On the map that you provided, there appear to be at least 11 residences on properties that either adjoin or within a few feet of adjoining the subject property on 700 South. There are more than that within a quarter mile of the subject property. I have not investigated the other parcels which are part of the petition. The new zoning would impose new requirements on any residential property, any new residential property that's within 300 feet of HEP property. And we would need to undergo special screening for surface and subsurface drainage. In addition, there are requirements for restrictive covenants on property deeds holding harmless the HEP district. This proposed change will almost certainly affect the ability to sell any property in the vicinity of an HEP. Yet you propose to subject numerous existing homeowners to this change. I've been told verbally that the reason for the zoning change is to provide protection for the petitioner, not to make any change to current use. These, of course, are words which have no binding. On the other hand, the proposed rezoning has words which do have binding and would allow the petitioner to negatively affect all adjacent and nearby properties at their whim. It is not clear to me exactly what protection the petitioner would gain. The area is already zoned agricultural, and they intend for it to remain no current change. But, you know, words are one thing. Changing words at somebody's whim is another. It's clear to me that I and numerous other adjacent property owners would be losing protection for our property. I expect my government to consider the negative consequences to the numerous existing adjacent property owners, and I hope that you will reject this petition. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
My name is Henry Janda, 4360 East 700 South, Columbia City. I'm right across from that west parcel, and I have 20 acres. So making that an HEP is going to impact the value of my property. Negatively, I might add. I would hope that you would reject that west portion and keep it just ag, separate the requests for AGP, leaving the west side strictly ag. Thank you. And one other thing. We talk about districts. What is the definition of the district? Is this spot zoning? Kind of looks like it is to me. They're not within a district per se. Ag is the district, and that was kind of broad. AGP is going to be spot zoning as you go through here. Thank you.
I don't speak a lot, but my name's Karen Crandall. I live at 5820 East, 900 South, Columbia City. I just want to say that the last time that they changed the zoning for the property that they had, they wanted to protect the people that lived out there forever for out in the country. I was one of the persons who lived across the road from a big section of farmland that they had, that the Emericks had, and that it did get changed. And nothing has hurt my property, because every year I get a new tax amount that I have to pay taxes on because my property raises all the time. And nothing has hurt any of the neighbors that I have because they had that zoning changed. And so I agree with letting them do the change on the zoning, and I think that'd be great for you guys to do that, say yes to. Thank you. Anybody?
Thank you. Anyone else, please?
Last call. I will close the public hearing and turn it back to the commission.
I'll move to approve 24 W rezone 2.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion, please?
For a matter of clarification, by approve, you mean forward a favorable recommendation?
Favorable recommendation.
Thank you.
So second still stand, please.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion and a second. I'm still asking if there's any further discussion.
I have some concerns about the west parcel. Particularly given the fact that I think it was mentioned that it would be tantamount to spot zoning. I agree with that assessment. And there appears to be a higher concentration of platted lots nearby. I don't have any objections at all to what's going on the east parcel, because that seems to be running adjacent to other AGP parcels. But is there a way that we could approve one and not the other?
I don't think that there is any reason you could not make a tailored recommendation. Because these are whole parcels, you run into problems when you try to do only part of the request. But that's not what you would be doing. It would be, you would be giving recommendations on the whole request. It would just be separating it out.
I agree. I think if you're saying we're giving a favorable recommendation for this parcel and not a favorable recommendation for this parcel, I think that's fine.
Okay. That would be my preference.
My motion was for motion, and the second was for both of them. So, and I guess my thoughts are, is I kind of disagree with the spot zoning. You've got AGP within, is it less than a mile of that? What's the difference between their previous ones and that one? Or is it a mile?
Little less than a mile, maybe 3/4.
Looks like more like a mile and a half.
I agree with Mark. I think it's an agriculture area. It fits in the area. I also disagree with the property values, because I think when you move out to the country, you move out of town's land and privacy, and I think it will actually help protect your property value.
Listen, I'm sorry. I really am, but we're going to keep the meeting in order. Everyone had a chance to speak, and we're not, it's with the commission right now. We're not going to debate it back and forth. I appreciate the fact that everyone's not going to like or want to accept the decision that's made tonight, but I'm still going to ask us to all remain, gracious and polite to others that are in the room. We're still at the point for discussion, if there's anything that anybody wants to say yet. I said we are still at a motion and a second, and I'm calling for further discussion. That's where we're still at this point, if there is further discussion.
I think Joe pretty much said it. It doesn't change the classifications of CFO going the way we're going because of the size of that tract, correct? So my feeling is it definitely preserves it long-term and keeps it open. That's why we move out there, most of us.
Well, and I would like to make the point too, that we're not talking about CFOs tonight. And I hate to get too deep into the weeds on bringing something into it that's going to create feelings from people that there's going to be a CFO comes in, because that's not even part of the discussion. I appreciate what you're saying, but I certainly don't want people to feel like this is being muddled together, because there's no conversation about a CFO. This is just about changing from AG to AGP. So it's a rezone. It's not a request to put in a confined feeding operation. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to roll call for a vote, please.
Joe Wolf.
Aye.
Kim Kurtz-Seslar.
No.
Mark Johnson.
Aye.
Jack Green.
Aye.
Brent Emerick.
Abstain.
Dane Drew.
Aye.
Chad Bank.
Aye.
Travis Baker.
Aye.
And Thor Hodges.
Yes.
I have a vote of 7 to 1 to 1.
We will move forward then to the fifth item on the agenda, which is a request for a rezone titled 24W Zone -3 Rosenberg. Staff report, please.
Sure thing. Give everybody just a quick second to kind of change positions. (24W REZ3) is another rezoning petition. This is for approximately 8 acres out of a total of 20, I don't remember the number, 20 something. You guys have staff report in front of you. What is the number?
21.5.
21.5 acre parcel, thank you. Currently zoned AG agricultural. This is located on 400 North between 350 East and 450 East. It's roughly in the halfway between those two roads. Currently it is used as an agricultural field and woods. The petitioner has started a standalone commercial, and commercial meaning that it's not related to an institutional use, basically. Shooting range. The request then to deal with to place that shooting range use into a zoning district, the request is to rezone it to PR Parks and Recreation, only that 8 acres out of the 21 acres. Shooting ranges are not explicitly listed anywhere in the zoning code. The nearest uses to shooting ranges, after discussing it among staff and with the Board of Zoning Appeals, it seemed like the uses listed in Parks and Rec seem to be the most closely aligned in terms of effects to a shooting range. Legal counsel also made a mention that Indiana has a statute that says that zoning cannot single out gun-related uses to be treated differently than any other type of similar use. So in further of that statute, by relating the shooting range to other uses, we are definitely in compliance with that statute. So another reason for why we're looking at it that way. The current surrounding zoning and uses, everything is AG agricultural. There are 2 residences immediately adjacent to the parent tract along 400 North. The other residences in the area are much farther away. Many of them are half mile away or more. I think there's a couple that are a little closer than half mile. Outlined in blue there is the overall current tract, and 400 North is here, 350 East is here, this is 550 up here, or excuse me, 500 up here, and 450 East over here. Closer view, outlined in red, is approximately the area being requested to be rezoned. And this aerial being from March of this year, you can see the petitioners already constructed and partially in operation or in operation shooting range. They do have a driveway that goes out to 400, and the site there is in the middle of the parcel, north to south. Also, March of 2024 aerial view, oblique view, giving you a different perspective of the situation. Kind of zooming in here, the petitioner has constructed a berm on the west side, which is towards the top in this photo, and the north side, which is towards the right. And you can see the gravel area. You can also see the framework, if you squint hard enough there, for the shelter that they place for the classes. Tent, if you want to call it that, but it's more of a shelter. The zoning for the overall area, again, this is a little different than the other one. A lot of AG agricultural in the area, but you do have some lake residential, rural residential towards the northwest, as well as in fairly close proximity, you do have a commercial zoning there along 450 East that is related to an automobile use. I believe it's auto detailing and some repair. And then another commercial use there on Anderson Road, which I apologize, I do not recall what that use is, just east of 450 on Anderson. So zooming in into the Smith and Thorncreek Township area, how circled there in red is the site. Again, this is primarily rural agricultural in nature, according to conference plans character. The character description again, and as well the primary uses. Note that this does, the character does call out small scale commercial and retail. So as a standalone commercial operation, this may fit into that. It may not. It is definitely small scale compared to what it might be. But whether that's really what we're looking for the character or not, that's something for you guys to weigh out. It is an open use, so in some ways it is more similar to agriculture than things that have lots of buildings. So that is another way of looking at it. Comparing the two zoning districts, the intents, I just read the one for AG, PR, Parks and Rec district intent. The district is intended to provide a land use category for parks, open space, playgrounds, and recreational areas. The zoning district may also serve as a buffer between commercial or industrial areas and adjacent residential districts. For reference. The permitted use lists, the AG uses again on the left, PR on the right, and you can see in this case, the number of permitted uses in PR is much shorter than that in AG. However, you will also notice that agriculture is not one of the permitted uses in PR. Indiana does have the right to farm law, and as long as agriculture continues, it is still protected under that law. Even though it's not called out as a specific land use in the zoning district, it is still permitted to continue. The special exception uses, and this is where we would be looking at for this shooting range use, if it is considered to be if this rezoning does go forward. Again, on the left are the AG special exception uses, on the right are the Parks and Rec uses, and highlighted in bold and italics are the uses that when we try to determine most similar uses, these were ones that felt like they were similar in effect to shooting ranges. So things like a go-kart track, because it's open air, typically they are noise producing. They do have people coming and going, so there's traffic generation. Not exactly similar to a shooting range, but again, the noise component and the open air component are very similar in effect. Different scale, typically amusement parks are a little larger, but again, noise being generated, traffic being generated, they also are largely open. Drive-in movie theaters, which are kind of an antiquated use, but we all know what they are at least. There is, again, typically some sort of noise traffic generating with that. Outdoor theaters and zoos, similar sort of situation and similar effects. You can also see there are a whole bunch of other special exception uses that potentially would have less intense effects. So say a country club, driving range, golf course was actually permitted use, for example. And then potentially ones that may have more intense effects, banquet hall, campground, recreational vehicle parks. So shooting range, again, this comparison was what led us to the interpretation to place it in Parks and Rec. You also note, and public swimming pool, another kind of noisy open use, but a little bit smaller. You also notice that public schools and private schools are a special exception use in Parks and Rec. They are also a special exception in AG agricultural. One thing that the petitioner has noted in his materials is that this is for purposes of training. So whether this actually constitutes an educational use or not was another aspect. We did discuss that with the board, and they basically, in a nutshell, weren't totally comfortable with that concept because they felt that as outlined in the zoning code, a school really would be a brick and mortar sort of structure, as opposed to just a more general concept. But it was a concept that felt like it could have merit to look at. So going into the criteria again, I won't go through everything I wrote, but location is the primary thing when you look at rezonings compared to the comprehensive plan. Is this something that complements the rural agricultural character type, or would this be out of character for the character type and for the area? That's probably the biggest thing that you'd be looking at. If the rezoning is instituted, the use would still require a special exception through the Board of Zoning Appeals. And at that point, certain technical details would be looked at in more scrutiny. So things like the height of the berm, which I bring up because there already is a berm there, hours of operation, how to handle traffic, if the area needs to be paved. Those types of things are details that the board would be looking at as a special exception if this were to be implemented. So any questions for me?
Yeah, Nathan, were any comparisons done with surrounding counties in terms of how their commercial shooting ranges are zoned?
Yes, and it varied quite a bit. It wasn't a formal, I didn't create a formal table, I will say that. But it varied. Some allow it in by right in certain areas. In agricultural areas, some treat it as a special exception in those areas. Some allow it in commercial zoning. So it just kind of varies. The municipalities allow for shooting ranges as special exceptions in their A1 districts. So if this was a little closer to Busco or to Columbia City in their jurisdictional areas, we'd be looking at only a special exception. So yeah, this was trying to fit into the bounds of our
Any other questions for staff, please? Thank you.
You're welcome.
At this time, I ask, is there a representative of this request that would like to come forward and speak on its behalf, please?
Hello, I'm Michelle Rosenberg. That's my wife, Susan. We are the property owners, and we make our residence in Churubusco at 871 Harvey Road. I'm not, I guess, totally familiar with the legal definition of commercial range. Our range is not open to the public. It's private property. People cannot just come and shoot when they want to. The only time people ever shoot on our range is if they are a member of a class or taking a private lesson, or one of my staff that is training themselves with continuing education to become a better instructor. So I don't know the exact definition of commercial, but we never considered it a commercial range for that reason, because it is not open to the public and we do not sell memberships or anything like that. Even the company Condition Red Response, which uses the range, does not pay for use of the range. We allow that company to use it free of charge. The company Condition Red Response is the reason why the range was created, though. My wife and I have been running this company since 2016. We now have a total of 7 staff members. Our company was started because in the area, my wife and I had moved from an area in Lafayette where there was a lot of training options available, high quality self-defense and firearms training available. And when we got here, we found that that was not the case. Also, as a physician, I work in anesthesia and critical care medicine, and we see a lot of patients come in through the emergency room with gunshot injuries, self-inflicted or accidental injuries. These things were a concern to us, and we opted to start this company to decrease unintentional injury, as well as to help our friends and neighbors protect themselves more effectively from violent criminal actors. We started the company as a for-profit venture. However, we do not take any salaries. In fact, my wife and I put loans into the company every year, which we never expect to see again. This is a labor of love for us. It's a service that we provide for the community. I know that I've received notice that several of my students have emailed in, and I have students here today that can also discuss what we're about and testify to what our priorities are. The reason why we created this range in the first place was because the cost to maintain our classes at other ranges was prohibitive. Range owners were charging us too much money, more money than we were actually bringing in by teaching students to rent their facilities, and where they had their own educational programs already and did not want to engage us as potential competitors for their programs. So ultimately, we realized that if we were going to continue providing the same level of high quality education, which we believe to be unmatched in this area, we were going to have our own facility. And for that reason, my wife and I spent a large chunk of our retirement to purchase the land and then put an additional about $50,000 into constructing this safe training facility, for which we will probably never see any kind of recuperation of that money. when we purchased the land, we did not keep any secrets. We were very open about why we were doing it. We wanted to make sure that the immediate neighbors knew that we were going to do that so that we wouldn't run into a situation like we now find ourselves. So we did tell everyone that we ran into exactly what we were planning to do. And no one at that time, and granted that is not all of the neighbors who have filed complaints at this time, but it was some of them. And we have been teaching these classes since 2021 now. So we've been teaching classes for a few years there, and no one has ever registered any complaints with us. In fact, some of the neighbors have come to our courses. We make great efforts to minimize the footprint in that area. So we run, let's see, I guess I'll come to that later. Susan and I train on a regular basis. When we train locally, we actually go to the range in Churubusco to shoot most of the time so that we're not creating additional noise and stuff out at our property range, even though we have to pay for a membership there. And we would otherwise be able to use our own property for free, and it's a better facility. We still pay to go to the other one just to decrease the amount of time we spent shooting out in the country, because we are cognizant of the noise that we create and we do not want to upset the neighbors. We have limited the number of our own courses and the elite national instructors which we bring in, despite the opportunity to benefit financially in order to also minimize this footprint. We limited the number of evening and morning courses and have only allowed 1 to 2 training after dark per year. And I think since 2021, I think we've had 2 after dark trainings, possibly 3. And those last for maybe a couple of hours after dark and then end. At the time we created this, we did not realize we were not acting in accordance with zoning restrictions, since many Hoosiers living in the country have their own backyard ranges. And it was brought to our attention when we took steps. And when it was brought to our attention, we took steps to remedy the situation, which is why we're here tonight. We aren't trying to get away with anything. We just didn't realize that we were not compliant. Regarding the resistance we're meeting to our personal property use, I am aware of some of the concerns, and I would like to address those concerns now as best that I can. One of the common concerns we've been informed of is the possibility that rezoning the property will result in a wide range of purposes, including specifically motocross was brought up by several of our neighbors. It's my understanding that there is a precedent for limiting property uses to specific activities when rezoned, and as a token of goodwill and compromise, Susan and I would be willing to accept a clause limiting the acceptable activities to our shooting courses and otherwise normal outdoor functions like hunting, camping, etc., which Hoosiers would use a property for normally. If placing these restrictions on our property is not possible, we would gladly meet with the neighbors when selling the property to determine the best course of action to prevent motocross type activities, etc., from moving in. It is not our intention to do anything else, and I'm happy to satisfy any needs by signing papers saying I won't. One of the other complaints that we have is the potential issue of safety. We did send pictures, I don't know if those are available, of our berms with my wife standing next to it and our targets, where you can see the impacts of the bullets, and you'll note that these impacts of the bullets tend to be about halfway up the berm height. So we have, when we initially built it, we looked for regulations, and I looked again this week for Indiana regulations, and we did not find any. That being the case, I asked the excavator to give us a 12-foot berm, which is what he built us at the time. Most of the impacts you'll see are, therefore, they're probably my head height, maybe, and then below. We deliberately put our targets we place our targets in such ways that we expect the shooters to be shooting at a downward angle for the majority of the courses, or the targets are low against the berm to begin with. We're very cognizant of the possibility of rounds, and we've done our best, both through the placement of our targets, the height of our berm, and the educational process which we have to prevent these errant rounds from occurring. Nobody is more concerned about the safety of the classes that we put on than we are. When shooting, students have no less than a 2-to-1 ratio with instructors. The most students we ever have shooting at one time is 8 students on the line. And at that time, we have 4 instructors, 2-to-1 with the students, which is not only nearly impossible to find in the training industry, but it helps us keep a very tight rein on the students and the directions that they're pointing their guns. And again, this, like I said, we did not consider this a commercial range, and comparing our range to the backyard ranges, which a lot of Hoosiers have. I have several friends that have their own backyard ranges, and I know of a lot of backyard ranges that are little more than tree stumps and piles of dirt that are 2 to 3 feet high that people are shooting at with high-powered rifles. Compared to these ranges, our range is incredibly safe, compared to the fact that we also have instructors standing over the students watching their muzzles. I feel like the question of safety, while a valid concern, we have done our best, and the chance of an errant round is very, very small. Behind our berm that we spend most of our time shooting in are 6 acres of our own woods, which also have the potential to trap bullets, though I am aware of bullets sometimes making it several feet through wooded areas without impacting a tree. But we don't believe, we use that as a backup system, not as our primary safety system. Having been to many public ranges and witnessed dangerous gun handling, I understand why neighbors who haven't been to our courses would consider the possibility of what we do to be very dangerous. And for that reason, we do invite them to come and see what we do and understand why we do feel that this is a very safe activity, comparatively speaking. Obviously, when handling firearms, the risk is never zero, but we do our best to get as close to zero as we can. There were some questions about whether or not we could add to the berms to make them safer. While there's no evidence that adding anything to these berms would make them safer, and there are reasons why we have not. The price, for example, to go from 12 feet to 15 feet on the berms is astronomical because of the pyramidal nature of the berm, where you have to pile it up further and further out to get the height. Just going from 12 feet to 15 feet is almost double the cost of the $50,000 that we already had in. We do not have berms on the right side of the range due to drainage issues, and the excavator said if we built a berm there, we would end up having a pool, not a range. That could probably be remedied as well, but also at an enormous cost. We would potentially be open to doing those if, but since those would be changes made simply for the peace of mind of the neighbors, and there's no evidence that it would actually increase the safety of our range, we would ask that if they want that done, that they help us financially create those additional barriers. In terms of the frequency and timing of shooting, we recognize that noise is a potential complaint and we understand that. We live close enough to the range in Churubusco that we hear people shooting, especially on the days where people tend to like to go out and shoot a lot. And we live in the country, so on opening day of deer season, it's like D-Day at our house. So, but to us, that is part of living in rural America. We live in a free state and a free country. People are going to shoot guns, they're going to hunt, and some of that noise is going to happen. The question is whether or not it's excessive. Like I said before, we do try to limit our footprint as much as possible. Typically, we offer 8 to 10 full-day courses from 9 to 6 annually. And about half of those courses, we spend half of the day in a classroom, and so you're only really looking at maybe 5 hours of range time for the students. We also host 3 elite nationally known instructors a year or less. This year we hosted none. Their courses typically range 2 to 3 days each, and the classroom time varies unpredictably, so I can't speak to that. We typically hold 1 to 2 practice sessions a month from 6 to 8 p.m. Those are for people who are not able to make Saturday practices, and we do it 1 to 2 times a month when the light is still available at 8 o'clock. So that's only a handful of months a year. We also have maybe another 10 times a year where our staff come out to practice for an hour to 2 hours. So this is not a range that is running every day. It's not running every week. And it's not running every month even during the year. We only run pretty much from April to October, and those limited number of times. So we have decreased the footprint as much as we can. We do run to 6 p.m. in the evening because we found that necessary in order to cover all the material that we have to cover, which is significant. And again, we invite people to come and see why we feel it's necessary. And our students that are here can speak to the length of our class and why we feel like we need those extra hours in the evening. We typically do not ever start shooting before 9 a.m. and our basic pistol class, which we teach the most of, doesn't even start shooting till 1 p.m. All right, traffic related issues. The most students we ever have is 20, and that's only when we have visiting instructors. We have our maximum set at 16, and a lot of our classes run from only 8 to 12 students. Add in 7 staff members, and a couple of us are married. The number of cars that come in and out of our range in a day is really never more than maybe 25, and usually it's less than 20. They come in the morning, they leave in the evening. They're not coming and going all day. We create maybe 5 minutes of semi-congested traffic in the morning and again in the evening. So I don't think that traffic is a realistic problem for the area. We also had a comment that we didn't need outsiders from outside the community in the area, which I don't really understand what that's supposed to mean. 95% of our students come from the greater Fort Wayne area, although we do draw students. We have drawn students as far away as Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and some of the other southern states because of the quality of the training that we provide and the quality of the training that the elite national instructors provide at our facility. However, these students are otherwise professionals, stay-at-home parents, and good law-abiding people. They are not thugs that are going to come and sit at the corner of the 5 and Dime and harass people in the neighborhood. These are good people, and there's no reason anyone should be concerned about these people coming and going a couple times a month. I think I've addressed all the major concerns that were voiced to me. I hope that we can come to some kind of an understanding. I understand that there are potential complaints, that the noise complaints and stuff are realistic, that we do cause noise, but I believe that the benefit that we offer to the community, the improvement in safety, confidence, and the number of people who have written us lengthy letters explaining how we have helped give them back their life and allow them to feel comfortable in places that they should feel safe. We hope that that overrides the occasional noise issues. And that's all I have to say. Any questions for me about our process or our range?
any accidents or injuries to
We
date?
have not had any accidents or injuries, other than minor scrapes on hands and stuff. No bullet wounds.
What types of firearms?
Most of our classes are handguns. We focus on concealed carry issues, so most of our guns are handguns that you would potentially carry. We do also offer defensive carbine and defensive shotgun courses.
I know you mentioned that you hadn't, when you started this, you weren't aware of what you were allowed to do there and what you weren't allowed to do there. Can you expand on that a little bit and why you didn't look more carefully into that?
Right. Well, I actually did have a lawyer, and we talked to him about, he's obviously not a zoning lawyer. So we talked to him about what the requirements would be for us to have a range in terms of any issues that he knew of, and everything that he suggested to us we followed. Because we were not opening what we considered a commercial range, and we knew that many Hoosiers have ranges in their backyards, we considered ours to be similar to that. And like I said, we did spend time researching height requirements and those kind of things on the berms, and we did not come up with anything that was a specific requirement. There were some recommendations here and there, but nothing that seemed to be a mandatory thing. So we wanted to be as safe as we could, and 12 feet seemed adequate to us at the time. And if you look at the photos that we sent of where our bullet impacts, you'll see that the bullet impact divots are about halfway up of our 12-foot berm.
For the commission and Michelle, I believe that those photos you submitted are still on our email, so my apologies to both of you. But if it's okay, I did bring up a couple photos from your Facebook page that I think might illustrate, so if it's okay with the commission as well. Let me pull that over. So that, showing the berm there. This is, again, another photo that I think shows the berm. And that, are there any others that kind of stand out that you would like me to kind of find?
That seems like a...
So you're shooting towards the north right there?
Yes. Yes.
And the trees that we see, that's part of your 6 acres?
Yes, sir. The trees off the right side of that berm are also ours, so an angle, if by chance there was one angled off the right side of the berm, that is our woods as well for several yards.
Any other questions for the petitioner from the commission, please? Thank you, sir. Okay, before we go to the commission, we will open up for a public hearing. Anybody that would like to come forward to speak with concerns about this request or in favor of it, now would be your chance, please.
I'm Audra Stanglin. My address is 4370 North 350 East, Columbia City. I bring pretty much 2 major issues, the 2 things that I wanted to talk about. I'm glad this picture is up. So my house, at the very top left of that, you can see like the little yellow square, that's the back of our property. I live there with my husband and 2 children. I've lived there for 27 years of my life. And we have an outdoor wood burning stove. That's how we heat our house. In the woods that's directly behind us, so it is adjacent to the property in question, is where we get our wood from, with our entrance being right there at the northeast corner. For years, we've taken our kids back with us, and that's where we gather our wood and have a little family affair. We cannot do that when they are shooting. You can see where it's just way too close. It's not safe for our family. And with it being said, there's no rhyme or reason of when they are back there. They are back there a lot of Saturdays, but we have no way of knowing when or if that would be, or evenings, not knowing their schedule. And that being said too, we are very aware, like before we go back, we look to see if there's cars or people shooting. And if there's not, we know we're got the go ahead. But that doesn't mean that they don't come back flying down that lane and then there's people shooting before we can get out of there too. So my main thing was a safety issue for my family. The second thing I wanted to bring up is the noise issue. And I know he talked about that too. But I have lived in this house a while, and we have 2 barns on our property that are over 100 years old. When they are shooting and we are inside, we can hear it. It is not there. I mean, we can talk in a normal conversation, but it's there. When we are outside on our back deck doing whatever in the yard, you either have to raise your conversation, get closer, do something different, because it bounces and ricochets that noise off of the barn. It's ridiculous. So, like I said, those have been there for a really long time. And then with the noise, just the whole community thing, that dirt road maybe has, I don't even want to guess, it's very little traffic. I actually run up and down that road a lot. I have with my kids with the stroller. It's one of those kind of country roads that you picture. You can run down the center because like no one goes up and down it. Or when there's students coming and when they're late, you better watch out because they are flying up and down that road and dust is flying. So anyways, I just wanted to bring up that it's been the noise and the safety for my family. We are not able to live our lives normally like we did before. And we kind of have to change our schedule to work around the range. So, thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
I trust you were not one of the neighbors that Mr. Rosenberg spoke to before
About
what he was intending to do.
All he mentioned to me, so I was actually, so I was running the dirt road when I met him. I don't even know how many years, when it was. If you remember, and I saw him back there, so I walked back. And he did mention, to my knowledge, that that's what they were doing back there. And I just mentioned, we use the woods, that kind of thing. It was a good conversation from my memory. There was nothing you said that I was offended by or anything. Like, you were open about what you did, but I also was open back that we use that and we are back there. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just make a comment? Our schedule is available on our website at any time, and Jim is your dad.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Jim, when he called me, I told him, like, if you guys have a day, like the days that are scheduled, I got students that take a lot of money.
Sure.
However, on days when there's not anything there, if you guys call me, I'm happy to make sure none of my people show up. And you can just text me and say, hey, we're gonna be back here today. I'll be like, hey, no problem. I'll make sure he's there.
And not that this is anyone's fault. I know we all have phones, that kind of thing, but I never see you around hardly to be able to talk to you. So that's one of the, I would say, not a benefit of living in this community is that, I'm asking the other neighbors, I run almost daily around the community, but I hardly ever see you to be able to ask those questions, if you know that.
My contact information is all online everywhere.
Okay.
Facebook, internet, this is our schedule. So, and we can give it to you, and I'm perfectly happy to, like I said, just text me. If I've got a class schedule, there's not a lot I can do. But if we don't have anything scheduled, you're like, hey, next Tuesday, we're gonna be out there. I'll be like, okay, make sure nobody's there. That's not a problem. We just need to know.
I appreciate the interaction here and that you guys working through this and sharing information, but we are going to stay on track a little bit. And you guys are more than welcome to have a sidebar conversation. And I appreciate you jumping in and answering questions. But we're going to kind of try to limit to a question and answer if something comes up where somebody has a concern, and then you all can talk a little bit later if you like.
Okay.
But thank you so much. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward, please?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Rogers. I live at 3885 North, 450 East. So I'm very close to where that property is. I moved in about January of 2021, so right about the time the business was started. I did not get a visit. I was told secondhand that this property was going to be conducting classes for mainly small caliber firearms like conceal and carry, personal safety, that sort of thing. And I thought, hey, great. We do need personal safety. We need to know that people know how to use their guns. However, one of my biggest problems is more recently, not in the beginning, but in the more recent months and years since then, I've heard large caliber firearms going off over there. And it sounds like a war. When they're small caliber firearms classes, you hardly hear it. It doesn't bother me so much. But when it sounds like the Army is in your backyard, even if it is just for 4 hours, when it is so random, I had a party the other day. It was loud. Didn't know that it was happening. So I feel like the purpose of the site has changed some. Now, again, never talked to him, heard it secondhand. But my attitude toward the range has changed lately. It's made me more concerned that a stray bullet from there can hit my property. I don't know if you have the map of the bigger one. So we are the little L shape, right up to your, I'll point it out. This is us. This is the house.
Oh,
That's
right
where
there.
the range is. This is our house. That's where the range is.
Right there.
High caliber gun could absolutely hit my house. Ricochet, potentially from a steel target, could hit my house. So I'm not for changing this to park and rec and making it even easier for this to happen, because I feel like it's not just personal safety, conceal and carry classes any longer. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Lana Harris. I live at 4101 North, 450 East, literally right on the corner of 400 and 450. We were never approached, never told that that's what they wanted to do there. Again, we heard it secondhand, and we live right on the corner, right where cars pass us every single day as in abundance when they are holding their classes. There's definitely some contradictions to what he is sharing. But I'd like to start with this first. Based on the Whitley County zoning ordinance that we researched, according to Parks and Rec as well as agriculture, there are performance standards. And the first one is the PSO1, second line, protecting health and safety and general welfare, lessening damage to property. Third line is the public nuisance and interference with reasonable entertainment of neighboring properties. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. I don't do public speaking very often. But it's definitely a nuisance, and it definitely interferes with our outdoor activities. We are outdoor people, we have dogs, and we're always outside. So they are shooting during the week. We get home from work, they're out there shooting when we want to relax and decompress from our corporate jobs. On the weekends, on Saturdays, they're starting at 9 a.m. and they are shooting after dark. I've actually called the police. The police come out, they're not shooting anymore because obviously it takes them a while to get there. But we have definitely heard shooting when the sun is gone and they are still shooting, which I thought there was a law against that. Also part of the Whitley County zoning ordinance is noise. No use on property shall produce noise in such a manner as to be objectionable because of volume, frequency, intermittence, beat, shrillness, or vibration. Such noise shall be muffled or otherwise controlled so as not to become detrimental. Public safety sirens, related apparatuses used solely for public purposes shall be exempt from this standard. They are not just shooting pistols or rifles or 12 gauge shotguns that I grew up, shooting with my dad, or 22s. I was doing yoga in my cabin, which is right there on the corner. You can see the top of their tent from our property. It was Memorial Day. It was in the morning. They were shooting these 20mm shells. The windows, no joke, they were rattling. There was no way I could decompress from anything with that going on. And it's Memorial Day. Hi, vets don't need to be hearing what they're trying to escape. If he received letters from people thanking him, those people definitely don't live in this neighborhood. We didn't move from the city to the country to be next to a shooting range. Also, part of the Whitley County zoning ordinance is vibration. No use on property shall cause vibration detectable beyond lot lines without the aid of instruments. Why is it that the city, you have to be in a soundproof building, but you can come out to the country and disturb everyone around you without repercussions? I mean, if you want to do this, then build a soundproof building. And if you're not in it for money, and you've already admitted that you're shooting in Cherubusco, and you're not in it for money, then continue to go to Cherubusco and shoot. Why are you coming out in the middle of the country to do it? Deer, you only hunt for deer, what is it, 8 weeks, 6 weeks? This bow season, and then it's muzzle, what are those shotguns? Muzzleloader, thank you. And then, shooting. So that's definitely, and it's also, you're not constantly shooting. It is, you wait for a deer and then you shoot. It's not automatic rifles. They are shooting automatic rifles. I mean, it is like I'm not in a very, a safe area. So what's the need for shooting ARs? What's the need for shooting 20mm? And you can't compare it to deer season because this is a constant nuisance. They've approached the lady that lives in front of them, literally in front of them. She's an 84-year-old lady. She can't hear very well, so I don't know if she's know I'm talking about her. But she gave us permission to share the fact that they have come to her door without a call first, without any notification. The first time they wanted to buy her property and tell her she could live there as long as she wanted. And then the second time they showed up with a clipboard. And there was nothing even on the clipboard. And he just kept telling her to sign it. And she's like, no. She told him no, and she immediately called us, very upset, very distraught, because again, she doesn't hear very well. And, we felt she shouldn't have been approached that way. Mental health is a huge issue right now. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows mental health. All of these people around this area hear this. Judd, who lives directly north of us on 400, their rifles, their 20mm ricochet off his farm. Just like Audrey said, there's severe the noise it's impossible to avoid. We can't have our windows open in the house. We have to go in the house to try and avoid the sound. Nice days, we can't open the windows. our dog is constantly scared now. She never used to be afraid of thunder, of gunshots. Now she is. Whether it's agricultural or Parks and Rec, I believe these zoning ordinance will apply. So regardless, the performance standards, they don't have a right to have a shooting range here, especially a commercial one that's constantly disturbing the peace, not to mention the feeling of safety, whether those bullets are going to reach our house or not, depending on what your past was and what you did when you were younger and where you served and what division of the government you worked for. If you were exposed to anything like this, now you're older and you're trying to relax as an adult, you can't do that. All those memories come flooding back. And there is no peace. There is no mental health. There's no safety for our dogs. As a matter of fact, ma'am, 84-year-old lady, her dog ran away. She was outside, dog took off, they were shooting. She went back there, asked them if they saw the dog. They're like, oh yeah, dog went that way. Boom, 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 kept shooting. How about helping me get my dog? How about at least stopping until we find our dog? No, that didn't happen. They kept shooting, just told us where the dog went. We had the whole neighborhood looking for the dog, except for the people at the shooting range. They kept shooting. I apologize if I've, offended you or stepped on any toes, but these are the facts. And I've been in this location longer than 10 years, and we've never had to deal with the disturbances ever like this. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Susan Rosenberg. I live at 8871 Harvey Road, Cherubusco. Something I really want to make straight is that we would never disrespect a man intentionally. Oh, sorry, I guess you can't hear me. We would never disrespect Nan intentionally, and we appreciate all of our neighbors and we want to make them happy. As far as Nan being approached to buy her property, she is the house right there next to the blue line, and she's getting older, and it was more of a courtesy. We thought that if we own that property, then nobody would be moving in there and have to listen to the gunshots or be bothered by people driving in and out of the driveway that's adjacent to the house. We're not land grabbers. We're not looking to expand our range in any way, shape, or form. It was mostly to keep peace in the neighborhood. And we apologize if that's not how it was construed or how that's not how it was taken. And actually, we didn't approach Nan. We approached a family member of hers just to see if that might be something that they would like to do. As far as the paper, my husband did go to Nan's door and asked if she would be in support of us. That was after this issue was raised and we had the zoning issues. So we were seeking her support. We didn't realize that she was opposed. So we were hoping that she would sign a paper in support of what we do there. It wasn't a blank piece of paper. There was a petition there that listed what we hoped to accomplish. So that was a lot of misunderstanding. I hope that's cleared up now. Okay, on to the other things. We do teach, this year we had scheduled 3 long gun classes. We usually do 2 classes that are long gun, 1 shotgun, 1 carbine. People are really loving their carbines and they're asking for more advanced skills, and we have those skills to teach. So we decided to add a 2nd level carbine class on. So we are teaching 3 long guns. There is never a large caliber weapon on our property. So if they heard a huge boom, it was from someone else, not from us. As far as ricochets, we don't shoot steels close up, and a ricochet from a steel shot at our range would not be traveling to the other house. So that should put that concern at ease. There are no semi-automatic weapons. We don't have any semi-automatic weapons out there. We don't see them as a safe option. I'm sorry, I apologize. We only have semi-automatic. We do not have automatic, meaning you have to press the trigger for each round. We don't have any weapons where you press the trigger and it just keeps going off. As far as the dog situation, all of our instructors are really high caliber people, not just very well trained, but high caliber people. And we don't invite our friends to go out there and shoot without us. So I don't know what that situation was with the dog. I don't know if somebody was trespassing on our property, but it certainly wasn't us, and I can't imagine any of our instructors behaving in any like manner. I think that's all that I have to respond to. Any questions?
What's the highest caliber that you allow to be shot?
Regular rifles. Yeah.
I can clarify the calibers. We typically shoot rifles, which are 5.56 or 7.62 by 39, which are standard military calibers that come out of regular small arms. So how you define high caliber, low caliber. And with the shotguns, yeah, we shoot 12-gauge shotguns. A 20 millimeter, if you haven't seen one, is a cannon.
Yeah.
And I've never even seen one in real life. So I don't know who's shooting those, but it's not us. And I would like to just remind you that there are other gun owners in the area which also might be shooting at night. I did say we have shot at night twice, and that's all we've done. So there are other people with guns in Indiana.
That's coming from you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. I'm sorry, may I add one more thing?
Yeah.
There was a concern that there's no reason for long arm training for safety reasons. And I'd like to propose that people protect their homes with shotguns and rifles. And we do teach home defense. So those are legitimate safety tools. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
My name's Will Rogers Jr. I am not related. I'm not going to check every month. I live at 385 North, 450 East, Columbia City. My wife is Jennifer, so she spoke a little bit earlier, so you're aware of the proximity of our property. We are not, no disrespect to the distinguished gentleman, but we are not much farther away as a residence, as he referred to any resident other than the two residences that butt up to the gun range. We are as close as can be. I am not against the gun range. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for letting me speak. I'm very appreciative to be here. Second, I want to thank you, the owner of the property, for the work you're doing in helping those that really need it. And that safety, and I agree with a lot of what your purpose is. I really do. So I want to thank you for that. However, I'll speak to two things: noise and safety, nuisance and safety. More importantly to me is safety. Safety for my family and safety for my animals. I too have a dog. She's a purebred German Shepherd. She's a mix, purebred German Shepherd Lab, and she's terrified to be outside when the gun ranges happen. That's how close we are. Never used to be. This is an 80-pound animal who, by all intent and purposes, should be happy to be in those woods and chasing birds. And gunfire, bird hunting should not bother this animal. She cowers and can't wait to get in the house when the gunfire is going off. It's an unfortunate consequence but it's an important one. It's the result of a gun range. The gentleman has compared his range to others that have background ranges. This is not a background gun range. This is not a stump in your backyard where a couple of your friends come over and you unload a few rounds. This is a commercial business. He has stated many times that he charges his clients. In fact, students paying a lot of money, he even said it. That's a commercial business. That's not a backyard gun range. If we treat it as such, I'll speak to safety. I know the owners of the property that butt up to his property. I've seen his range. In fact, I was called upon to bring my tractor down when their shelter showed up so I could fork it back there. So I've had eyes on this range, and it's a good start. It really is. And I can see the cost that he's had to expend to try to make that effort, and very appreciative. He's not inaccurate with his description of his burn. However, this is a commercial gun range. Make no mistake. At this point, it's a commercial gun range. I've been to several commercial gun ranges. In fact, the one in Buffalo, I have not been to, so I can't speak to it. So forgive me. But I am going to speak to actual commercial gun ranges are paramount in safety. Now, he's made great efforts towards that safety with his instructors. 2 to 1, that's fabulous. Like, I'm impressed with that. Had no idea. So thank you for sharing it. It does give me more comfort, okay? But you are not ever, you cannot tell the psyche of someone's mind. You do not know if they're ready to unleash. It's happened at gun ranges, high-end, super professional gun ranges. People die because of one rogue individual one day has a break. It can happen. If that happens, it could. Hopefully never ever, but it could, and the potential's there. There's no protection on the east side or west side of this gun range. He's just got the berm, that's it. And he's making an assumption that his students are only going to shoot at that berm and only going to shoot at that target. Well, I'll tell you something. One day, someone isn't going to. They're going to turn and either kill somebody because they're intending to do it, or they're going to turn and unload a few rounds down that field, which is at Lana's house and our house. Okay? It can happen. So what we'd like to see is added safety measures on the east and west side of this range, not just the berm. And it doesn't have to be berms either. Okay? These professional gun ranges have a berm, a main berm that you're shooting at, and on the sides are railroad ties stacked up for the ricochets. They're shooting metal targets. Those pieces are flying everywhere. And if you think that a piece of a bullet, a .223 round out of a carbine isn't gonna travel a quarter of a mile, you're fooling yourself, because they do, and they will. And we're less than we're less than 1/8 of a mile away. Okay, so take that into consideration, please, serious consideration. The safety. The noise is an issue. I own guns, I hunt. I tolerate it. I'm not a complainer of it. I tolerate it, okay? However, on a Sunday after church, when you got 12-gauge shotguns going off that sound like 50 cal, like over Memorial Day weekend, I could have sworn there was a 50 cal going off. Now I know there wasn't. But that's how loud it's magnifying and coming out of the range.
Somebody was out there on a Sunday. I'm going to stop you there for just a second. He's got
a question that he would like for you to address, I'll let him do that. But if there's something you want to add to it, I'll let you come back up and have your turn, but we're going to keep it at the podium for right now.
So I'll speak in generality, which will hopefully answer his question. Yes, many Sundays, there is, that gun range is in operation. Now, whether you're aware of it or not, that would be concerning if you're not. Because if you're telling me that you're not operational on Sunday, I'm telling you, you are. And it's pretty much every Sunday. And it's all day. So either someone's out there and you're not, that's a problem too. And if you don't have security cameras out there, how would you even know? I don't know if you do or not, but that would be absolute imperative. Someone who's taking money, giving classes, and having this active range better have some type of security cameras up. So when it does go down, you know what happened. Again, I got off track. I'm commending him and her, you together, and what you're doing, I think is important. But the safety is more important than anything. You go to Parks and Rec, they have good intentions. They have no intention of expanding anything. They have no intention of putting a dirt track in. That's great. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Y'all hear that? Right? People change their minds, and you can put it in writing all you want. There's legal loopholes to the end of the day. Our concern with Parks and Rec is those woods now become a survival zone area where they're clearing a few trees out. Now we got targets all up in there, and they're walking people through situations like that, survival situations, where your firearms are no longer at a farm. You're everywhere. You're over here, you're engaging here, you're engaging here, you're engaging here, in that type of situation. Now, whether they intend to do any of that or not, I don't know. But you go Parks and Rec, and now you open that up, where they could suddenly create an environment like that. As far as property values, it's detrimental. I've been a real estate broker, licensed real estate broker for almost 15 years. And I can tell you, it is next to impossible to sell a property next to a gun range, or even within a quarter mile of that gun range. It is very difficult. And those property values will plummet. If you try to sell, you will take less. It's just a matter of fact. I'm not taking anything away from what he wants to do. If we can look at something that can contain noise a little better, and most paramount, safety. You have to shore in the west and east side of that gun range. You can't leave that wide open like that. I've got a carbine in my hand, all I gotta do is go like this, boom, and I'm right back. There's 3 rounds that can go up to a mile. A .223 caliber? Absolutely. Okay, that's important, very important. The animals, yes, yeah, people have guns, and there is shooting around us. Not just, I mean, yes, and I've heard it too, but it's not every day, it's not every week, it's not every weekend, and it's not for hours on end. I mean, he even said 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., but yet the shooting is mainly 12 or 1 to 6. That's 5 hours of constant rounds, mind you. Now you think about it, if you lived within proximity of this and the safety, again, I can't say that enough, I'm a broken record. Safety, safety, safety. We're not gonna wait until somebody is maimed or killed because somebody rogue, and it would have been prevented if there was just a barrier on each side. There's nowhere to go now but up with that firearm. So I'll end with, again, thank you for what you're doing. If there's any service members here that are benefiting, or whether you engage with this or not, I thank you for your service. And I don't mean to take any of it away from you. If it's giving you solace, thank you. Safety. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Justin Heffernan. I live at 1520 Glacier Ridge Road, Fort Wayne, Indiana, 46845. And I am speaking, I would like this to be passed. The reason, there's several. I actually live right next to Isaac Walton in Fort Wayne. This is a gun range that is actually open to the public whenever you pay your membership fees. And every single day we have shooting. Every single day, all day long, there's rifle calibers, there's pistols, there is pretty much anything that you want to shoot up to. I think you're not allowed to shoot 50 caliber. It doesn't bother us at all. I am actually also a licensed real estate agent. My neighbor's house just sold for $540,000 when the last thing in the neighborhood probably sold for $300,000. Values are going up significantly. It does nothing to take away any money from the property values. Nobody ever even mentions it. My neighbors don't even talk about there being a gun range right across the river. It's shooting, yeah, you hear the background noise, you hear the reverberation of bullets shooting, but it's also our rights to own our property and shoot on them and also on places like that. So people talk about, why is this in the country? Well, I actually helped him find this parcel of land, and I knew that he was an avid gun user and wanted to teach classes to his friends. The best possible scenario for this property was that there was nobody hardly close by except for the one neighbor. And we actually did go talk to her as we were showing the property. We had a conversation with her, and at that time they expressed exactly what they wanted to do with the property. It's never been something that he tried to hide. There are people probably that didn't talk to him, but in the end, it's never been anything that he's tried to hide. And the one thing that I will say is I have worked with Dr. Rosenberg before I started becoming a real estate agent in surgery. I have owned guns my whole life. I've shot guns my whole life, and I have never, ever, ever taken a class, ever, until he started teaching. I never go to public ranges. The safety factor that we're talking about is why I will not go to a public range. The people that are shooting at these ranges have never been to classes. They literally are buying a gun, they're walking into a range, and they are flagging people. They are doing all kinds of things. I stay away from those places. But when he expressed interest in wanting to teach people, I was all about helping him find a place to do it. This man could make 10 times the money by taking a Saturday call and going to work as a physician in the hospital, making really good money. But instead, he chooses to do classes. I believe, I don't say that I'm positive on this, but I believe he even did a class for free for teachers one time because he wanted them to have that right if that law passed that was going to allow them to carry in classrooms. This is a man and a woman who have dedicated their life to teaching people how to safely use a gun. So now I've taken the classes. I've taken his handgun class twice because I wanted my wife to experience it because she wasn't comfortable holding a handgun, using a handgun. We have our own range at home. I can go shoot at my range anytime that I want, but I want her to have the proper instruction by a licensed professional, somebody who's actually been to these courses and been to high-level courses to learn how to do this. So an example of one of their classes is at this 2-to-1 ratio. Again, you will never hear of that kind of a ratio in any class that you go to take for gun safety. And in that ratio, I've seen a lady who was not comfortable with shooting a gun. So instead of letting her participate in the class, they took her off to the side and they gave her one-on-one individual training during the class to allow her to feel more comfortable, but to also make sure that she was watched at all times, that she didn't do anything that was unsafe. They would absolutely pull anybody off that course in a second. They've stopped like what you would consider just simple mistakes that people would make. They stop the class. They make an example of what not to do. They don't try to point that person out, but they are all about safety. I've also taken the carbine course. The carbine course is something that I've never seen anybody else even offer. It's an incredible thing. AR-15, whatever, these are great weapons to protect your home with. And the fact that somebody's willing to teach you how to use that gun properly, how to clean it, how to disassemble it, how to use it safely, that is invaluable. And it's something that most people don't have the opportunity to do. I suggest that the people who are worried about safety should take one of these classes because they are incredibly good. So I just wanted to get up here and say that this is really something that should be done because this is needed in our community. It really is. And thank you for a chance to speak.
Thank you.
My name is Nathana McFarland, and I live right next door to the shooting range. The noise is, you move to the country and you think it's going to be peace and quiet, but it isn't, since the shooting range is next door. Also, our property values are going to go down. And I even had the owner come to my house, the one that owns the shooting range, with a clipboard in hand about a month ago. Wanted me to sign a paper that I was okay with the shooting range. There was no heading what it was for, nothing, just words that he said. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Diane Rice. I have not been sworn in as I was tardy. What do I do?
If you could just turn to your right there, they'll get you taken care of.
Do you swear affirm that any statements you make for the commission tonight will be the truth? So state I do. I do.
That's all? Okay. I am the Executive Vice President of the Indiana State Rifle and Pistol Association and a proud resident of Whitley County. I live at 5141 East 700 South. My presence here today is at the request of the Executive Board and our President, Charlie Hiltunen. Mr. Hiltunen has also requested that I communicate his support of this project. He has also asked me to communicate that he is a member of the Executive Board of the NRA and that this project is of interest to the NRA and would like to offer assistance as is appropriate to help alleviate and mitigate any concerns of local citizens, providing factual information and range inspection. The factual information I think is pretty important when we start talking about 20 cal. I didn't even know what a 20 caliber was. And my husband is actually an assistant coach for Team USA and travels around the world. And I'll tell you a little story. I have a little handgun that I keep in my safe at our business. And he gave me multiple magazines. And I said, well, I don't think there's going to be a war. I don't understand why I need all these magazines if there's an intruder. He said, because you will miss. He said, and he explained to me even further, which is why people are using long guns for protection, more accuracy. Thank goodness there's never been an intruder. There's never been an intruder, so I've never had to use it. But a lot of the things that have been said here today are factually impossible. Regularly using the term ricochet, I wasn't very good at physics in high school, but when it comes to ricochet for guns, the actual ricochet loses a lot of its energy and can only travel a certain distance. It cannot travel beyond the trees. I think one of the term ricochet and maybe even like reverberation of the sound were used interchangeably. There's a lot of emotion, and that's where if we can be of assistance, we have the factual information and can possibly help with that so that people have information that is true rather than emotional response. Instruction in firearm safety and the safe and reasonable use of firearms is of interest to the community, the state, and this great country. I also have the pleasure of knowing Dr. Rosenberg professionally for quite some time. Our paths cross. Again, what we do is very different. They are diligent in a way that, as was stated by the previous speaker, is beyond the expectations of the industry and expressed to me concerns of other instructors. They maintain the very low student to instructor ratio. There's just a lot of positives about this. And when we were talking about safety, 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 we're dealing with inaccurate information about the trajectory of a bullet and how it can travel, but we're ignoring safety as a larger community and making sure we have a place to educate our citizens so that they can be safe and responsible gun owners. And we have that responsibility. So if there's a way, it sounds like a great start for a compromise if need be. And if we can come as the Indiana State Rifle and Pistol Association, come forward and help, we will do so in any way possible.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lori Miller. I live at 4101 North, 450 East. Actually live right on the corner of 400. So they do drive by. I see them drive by to go back there. I was never approached as well as, you know, living just east of the property itself through the field. My biggest complaint is the noise, the length of the noise. I grew up with guns. My father, grandfather, uncles, they all shoot. Been around them all my life. However, when you're shooting for that extended a period of time, it does get on your nerves. So personally, I'm all about the safety as well and what you're doing, training. I love that because guns are dangerous and we need to have people use them correctly. It's the noise. Can we do something about it? Can we do soundproofing? Could we build a building? You know, just something to damper the noise that's going on for the long period of time. I know, you know, they start at 9, they start shooting. Usually it is a little afternoon. They do stop at 6, but then there's lingering people that stick around after hours. So they do shoot longer than what they're saying. And then again, it is random. I appreciate you pointing out your website. I'll take a look when those are happening because there's been several times I have people on my back porch and it's just boom, 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 boom. So it is a lot. It does get on your nerves after a while. Safety, definitely that's a piece of it. I'm not as concerned because they are shooting towards the north. But again, it's the noise aspect for me. Traffic is crazy. I know they said, you know, there's only a few vehicles, but when they're late, they're flying down that dirt road. Dirt roads, you know, do create dust and we all love dust. Sorry, I'm being kind of an ass right now, but I'm upset with the aspect of them downplaying of, yeah, we're out there, you know, thinking that it's the piece of, you know, the point of them just wanting to have an area to shoot. I get that, but can we do something about it to make a happy medium, make us, you know, it's our neighborhood. You're not in our neighborhood listening to it all the time. You have earmuffs on, shooting, you're active doing it. So yeah, that was what I wanted to bring up. And yeah, I'd love to work with you guys to come up with some type of, you know, happy medium. So thank you for your time.
I need this one also.
You raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the statements you make before the commission tonight will be the truth, truth, and state of the truth?
I do. Hi, my name is Steve Tuggle. I live at 804 Claiborne Drive in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I have attended Shell's classes in condition red response roughly for about 6-7 years. I've known them. Excuse me. I'm also a level 1 individual defensive system instructor with like hand-to-hand and weapon retention and things like that. And I have recommended and I have attended Shell's basic course 4 different times, once for myself, 2 other times with a couple of female students wanting to learn how to shoot a pistol, and then with my young son who just turned 16 in November. And the system that Shell teaches, safety has been brought up many times here with regards. He is by far the safest instructor, and I've had it for about 8 different years, and other instructors also. Their system, their instructors are extremely safe. It's the best that I've ever seen in how they teach the course and how they teach the safety. And it's not just about shooting your firearm, it's what's beyond it. It's like, when would you shoot? When do you not shoot? So I just wanted to bring up there about the safety issues as far as it goes with his range. And if that is not there, I've gone to other ranges and you cannot do some of the drills, say at Hillside, for example, of Freedom Firearms at an indoor range. They will not allow you to pull concealed and learn how to properly draw and shoot. My daughter just graduated the Air Force Academy in June, and they were doing a shooting instruction in January of this year. So she's now a second lieutenant in the Air Force, and the instruction that they received was just garbage as far as shooting. They had a 2-hour class, and they're already drawing their firearms and shooting that way. And I'm going to sign her up. She's home for 60 days. I'm going to sign her up with Shell because I want her to learn how to shoot properly and safely. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Jim Cormany. I live at 3776 North 450 East. I appreciate the Rosenbergs, and I think their intentions are good. I appreciate what they do back there. My concern comes with what we're here for tonight, to try to rezone this. I think the gun range really doesn't fall into a good category. So I think we've hunted up something that we are trying to place it in this Parks and Recreation. And if we noticed on one of those slides, there was a lot of undesirable things that could come about if they ever decide to change their mind on what they're doing, or if they sell the property. There was a list there that had some pretty negative things that we as landowners all around them. Another slide, probably that one. I'm looking at amusement parks, arcades, batting cages, BMX track, banquet hall, camping, country club. A lot of those things will add lots and lots of traffic for a rural setting. It'll make it what we don't want it to be out there when it's already zoned for agriculture. So that's all I got.
I'm Jeremy Barron, 5901 East 600 North. My concerns are with the rezoning itself. I'm not going to share concerns about guns or noise or dogs or dust. I own property 3,600 feet from it, 500 north to just the next mile north. But I'm really concerned with the spot zoning, because I think that's really the issue here. We're trying to put a park and rec zone in the middle of an agricultural zone, and that's going to affect downstream congruent land use. And so I think it's outside of the scope of our comprehensive plan. I'm really disappointed that it even made the agenda tonight for this spot zoning to even be considered. When I look at acceptable land use in ag, I think this is a small business. They're not precluded from shooting a gun. So I'm really concerned with why we're even here tonight to discuss this in front of the Plan Commission. So my recommendation would be to reject the rezoning of the Parks and Rec zone. Thank you.
My name is Zach Webb. I live at 4021 East, 400 North. I live right in the front of that shooting range. Doesn't interrupt my days. I have personally taken one of his classes. The classroom part of it is very in-depth and detailed. He makes sure everybody is aware of the firearm, the proper way to use it. When they go out to the range at noon, it's time, everybody's loading. All the instructors have their eyes on the students. When they go up to the line, they load their pistol, they put it in their holster. Every one of those instructors are watching, making sure if somebody starts to put a finger on a trigger, they get stopped immediately. Now, as far as safety, On the north side of it, they have a berm, like Shell spoke about, and on the west side is a berm. The east side is open. I'd say just let them be. Don't worry about rezoning. It doesn't interrupt my life. It doesn't disturb me. I mean, yeah, the shotguns, they get loud. I mean, I hear noises everywhere around. You know, I understand. I think what they do is good. I don't have a problem with it. You know, I oversee. If they're not there, I see everything that goes on back there. If something's up, Joe gets a call. If he lets me know, maybe he could be more, you know, apt to get a hold of the residents and say, hey, we're popped up a class, or hey, we're gonna go out and shoot. He always does that to me. You know, I think what he does is a good thing, and I understand people's concerns, but I think instead of changing the rezoning, just leave it the way it is. What do you think?
Well, I'm Tom Henney. I live at 4119 North, 350 East, just directly west of where they're at here. I've lived there my whole life, basically. I didn't find out about this until last night. I didn't get a letter on it or anything, so I haven't had time to prepare. But one question I've had sitting here, I've asked myself, how'd they get this in the first place? Well, it's come evident to me that they just bought it and did it. A commercial shooting range didn't get approval. I mean, that's the way I understand it. I don't think that's the way it's supposed to work, but he did it. He says he spent a substantial, a lot of their retirement money on this property and doing it because it was getting too cost prohibitive to go to other, I don't know, shooting ranges. But he's charging a substantial amount of money for people to do it. So that tells me it's getting into his profit margin. So he's wanting to move out here and do it. He's had people come from Fort Wayne and say how great and dandy it is living next to shooting ranges. Fine, keep it in Fort Wayne. They like them, let them have it. Like they say, that on the weekends, you hear it. If they're not shooting automatic rifles over there, somebody's either got an awful fast finger or there's two of them shooting at the same time. I don't know a whole lot about firearms, but he mentioned a 7.62. All I know is that's comparable somehow to a 30-06 slug. Now that's kind of scary. You got, like Aubrey said, they go back to their woods directly north there to cut firewood. I wouldn't want to be out there cutting firewood. So what if they go back and they're running the chainsaw? They're not going to hear those guys over there shooting. I mean, that's scary. You showed a picture up here earlier where you had guys kneeling, shooting a rifle. Well, if they're kneeling and they're shooting at their sights out there, that doesn't make your berm very high, in my thought. Because you're shooting like this. The houses directly to the east of it, there's no berm between them and the houses. If they're concerned about keeping everybody safe, come on. I'd be scared to death by those people. This is also a training range, which makes it worse So they got some guy that doesn't know how to shoot out here shooting. Granted, they say they've got people with them, but how many times have you ever, I know it's happened to me anyway. I was pretty little, but I had the gun. Off one went that way. Woo, you know, Dad about kicked my butt, but it happens, you know, and it's going to continue to happen. I've never once been contacted by any of them about anything. I guess maybe that was because my name wasn't on the list as adjoining landowners. But we've got 3 houses, my family does, just west of it. One of them's a little farther south, but it's, I don't know. I don't agree with it. It would have been one thing if he would have went through the proper, if he would have went through the proper procedure. As many people has been here complaining, do you think they would have got approved? I don't. So he just, I guess it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is permission. That's the way it looks to me. So I don't know. I just hope that you listen to everybody and their thoughts on it. It is noisy. It's noisy more than what they think. If they don't, there's people back here shooting. Maybe it's not their people. I don't know. But it happens. So, okay, thank you.
Anyone else, please?
I would like to go again. Everyone has already spoken, so I can say but I would like to wait until everyone else.
Sir, would you like to speak? I will allow that, but it's going to be very abbreviated. I'm not going to give you the floor for an extended amount of time. I'm going to put a clock on you for that. Go ahead, sir.
You raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that any statements you make before the commission tonight will be the truth and so stated.
My name's Scott Baker. I'm a student of their classes. My wife and I, we reside in Kendallville. We are retired military, medically retired. We both spent an extended 8 years in the military. As far as safety concerns and stuff, even with our background and our training through the military and all the, you know, deployments that her and I both have gone on, we actually met in Afghanistan. So whole other story. He still wouldn't let me on the range without me going to his beginner classes to work our way up. They have prerequisite classes that they require before you're even allowed on the range. So the notion that there's somebody on that range that absolutely has no concept of what they're doing and they're just gonna randomly flag the pistol where they want. There's at least 2 other classes that they've gone through, regardless whether they fired, you know, actual firearms and rounds, practicing with blue guns that don't have any bullets in them or anything. They've already got a trajectory of where that bullet and everything's supposed to go. So as far as their safety echelon that they have with their peer instructors and stuff, and the 2-to-1 ratio is absolutely unheard of. They don't even do that in the military. I don't know if there's any other military service members or anybody that spent time in the military. You don't get a 2-to-1 in the military. You got 1 to 12. And there's not that much comparison to accidents significant to why safety would prevent them from doing anything out there. Some of the other commercial comments about it being a commercial range and stuff, they don't sell time at that range. It's not open to the public. People can't say, hey, I'll give you $50 for an hour at the range. They don't do that. You must go through their training process. You have to go through their safety courses, and then they personally use that range for their classes, which dives right into the fact that they are a school. They teach knowledge and things that you don't get just going out to your backyard to fire a range. You get, you know, the notion that a school has to be in a brick and mortar building is false. I've been to welding classes. I've been to blacksmith classing. No brick and mortar. You're just out on a property doing things, and hammers make noise and stuff too. So there's a lot of notions and things that were being said about coding that doesn't seem to be outside of the realm of what they would fall into. They have the knowledge. They are teaching things like the class, like the school. As far as that, they are doing very good things. Me personally, I have severe PTSD from the military, and going to these range classes and stuff really helped me work through a lot of the issues that I had. Like for a while, I couldn't go to 4th of July with my kids. I just couldn't do it. All the noises and all that stuff would bother me to no end. I'd just stay at home, put my headphones on, and that was it. I've been to several ranges. He's taken me out to the range, and since then, I have actually been able to take my kids to the 4th of July and be able to have the situational awareness that they provide to continue with my life. And that's all I got to say is that they provide really good stuff to elevate people's lives. It's not a joke. It's not a hack. If there are people out there on Sundays, I can also attest to this. We have a religion that forbids us from doing anything on Sundays of that nature in any way, shape, or form, so I know it's not them. If somebody's out there, we got to take precautions and maybe work on, putting cameras and stuff to catch the perpetrators in that act. Other than that, thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna take a time out for just a second, and I should have probably brought it up earlier, but we do have a standing rule with the Plan Commission. We will not go past 10 o'clock. So I would like anybody that wants to speak yet to allow time for each person to speak. I'll probably cut this off at no later than 10 till 10 so the commission can make a decision on tonight's topic. Go right ahead, sir.
I'll make it short and sweet. James Barron, 3628 East Bird Road. Lived in the community my whole life. I appreciate what they're doing. I don't think we should rezone it. You guys classified as noises from theme parks. There's nothing close by that relates to any of that kind of noise and its purpose. No highways are quite a few miles away. Safety, he said that they don't make enough money to increase safety. 12 foot, not that tall. I've shot a lot of guns, hunter, gun safety advocate. 12 foot's not real tall. Maybe if they went through the proper channels at the beginning, maybe some of this could be avoided. Noise, that's irrelevant a little bit, I think, just to a certain extent. But safety, they should at least have another wall to the right, maybe a little taller, closures. I mean, for all the people that are behind that area, any accidental gunfire is a concern. I mean, if this was built on their property, next to their house or any one of your guys' house, I'm sure somebody would be complaining. They say they don't make much money, so there's no tax incentive for the county. They're gonna have increased traffic on the road. It's a gravel road now. Are they gonna want it paved? Increased tax for the county. But I don't know where their money goes through tax dollar wise from what they get for training classes if it's Allen County. So you have no benefit on Whitley County's taxation for the business that they are running for this. And just, I want to make sure, I know they're say this all safety classes, just, I want to make sure that their cost versus safety is relevant. They say it costs a lot more to build the berm higher. Well, there's also a safety cost with it not being higher. And I would hate to see one of my neighbors and friends accidentally, I'm sure nothing ever intentionally, happen to one of them just because the cost of it being safer is an issue as well.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear affirm that the statements you make before the commission tonight will be the truth? If so, state I do. Okay.
My name is Brandon Renfro. I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, 1523 Stableford Drive. I'm a student of Dr. Rosenberg's. I know we've had a lot of remarks tonight. I'll try to keep things really brief. I just want to maybe reiterate and support some of the things that have already been said about safety, and then one remark about the facility itself. First, anybody who has been through this type of class, and Dr. Rosenberg's classes specifically, safety is basically everything. Every person that picks up a firearm, becomes a trainer, and teaches a class like this knows that you're taking your own life and the lives of everyone else around you into your own hands when you pick up a weapon. And that thought is always in the forefront of everything you do. You learn the rules of firearm safety, and you never, ever break them. You have an instructor over your shoulder all the time, making sure that that is the case. And if anything even seems amiss, then everything stops and that gets addressed. So safety isn't everything, it's the only thing. Secondly, with regard to the facility, this particular type of facility is really important in the training arena, because I think someone remarked earlier that it's very, very difficult, nigh on impossible, to train for real world situations in an indoor range. Like I say, you can't train to draw safely from concealment. You can't learn to address situational awareness because you're basically in one direction at one time. You can't train the mindset to deal with multiple targets. You can't train the mindset to know when you're truly in danger, when there's a deadly threat, when there's not. Learning when not to draw your weapon is just as important as when to draw it. Those kinds of things can only be taught in an open range like the one Dr. Rosenberg has. And these facilities really need to exist for people like me and other students to have the access to trainers and environments where we can learn those kinds of skills. Keep ourselves safe, keep our families safe, keep our community safe, and keep everyone else in the class safe. That's all I really have. That's one of those things. Thank you very much for letting me talk.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any statements made before the commission tonight will be the truth if so stated?
Hi, good evening. My name is Emerick. I live at 1523 Stableford Drive in Fort Wayne. Not to say that I'm a foreigner of Whitley County. Half of my family lives out here. I really am in favor of this gun range. I apologize, I'm not as eloquent a speaker as we've had many tonight, but for a lot of reasons, I am in support of this kind of facility. One of them is I am military trained, and the gentleman that spoke earlier is right. I mean, it's garbage training. You have one person screaming over the top of several, and it's not great. We're gun owners. My family are avid hunters and gun owners, and I wanted to feel safe in my own home, being a gun owner, having guns in the house. And this is an opportunity for me to go to a range and have an expert female instructor show me how to hold a shotgun and protect myself when, honestly, and this might sound a little bit crude, but no other man is going to be able to tell me how to brace that and how it's going to affect my chest when they don't have a chest like a woman. They have wonderful skills to keep me safe, knowing that my arms are going to be weaker than a man's. They have things that I can't get from my other training. I took my first handgun class in DeKalb County with the Auburn Sheriff Department. And as lovely as they were and as safe as they tried to be, they didn't have the ratio of instructors to students. And they did have people flagging guns and people crying at the range. And it was not the safety, it was not the safety course that I wish I would have gotten with my first experience taking a handgun course. I did take the shotgun course with them, and I plan to take another handgun course to undo any of my bad habits. I hope that my own daughters take this course as well. I want them to be safe and secure. And to say that safety is a concern, they start out the day with an entire safety brief. You don't start by loading your weapon. You don't start by going to the range. You're aside, and there's an entire, like, everyone has a role. And I'm a critical care nurse. I work in organ donation, and I've seen it all. I've seen it all, and I appreciate so much the thought that they put into with regard to safety. It's not something, this is trauma season. It's not something that we see when people are shooting in their backyards or shooting off fireworks. My neighborhood sounds like World War III right now with fireworks. In regard to, vibrations and shaking, God bless them, but Parkview just added another Samaritan to their fleet, and it goes right over my house, but I'm not going to be calling up the hospital to complain about it. I'm appreciative that they have that service that can save lives and help keep our community safe. And I really appreciate what the Rosenbergs are doing to teach me the skills to keep myself safe, to keep my family safe, to keep my daughters safe. I really, really appreciate the time that they put in, knowing that they don't get much back financially for it. They're doing this really for my benefit.
Anyone else, please? Last call. Okay, we'll close the public hearing at this time.
We're going to do a quick rebuttal on a couple things.
I will give you 3 minutes, but I would want you to limit to anything that you might have that would be new and not something as far as, I didn't hear any questions from anybody, or I'd let that be addressed at that point. So I don't think there's any questions to address, but I will give you 3 minutes to come up and add anything that you would want to at this point.
Or just a couple of things that were stated were accurate, need to be addressed, just for accuracy purposes. So that decisions can be made. Lost that somewhere. Okay. The shooting on Sundays, for one, we do have expert, the elite trainers that come, they run a full weekend. They do Sundays 2, maybe 3 times a year. This year we didn't have any. If there's anybody shooting out on Sunday, it's not us. And I hope, and everyone can get my phone number or whatever. And if you hear anybody shooting out on Sunday, you let me know and I'll make sure the police show up, because it's not us. Another thing is with regard to the ricochets and things like that, the steel targets, first of all, they all face slightly down, so the bullets go straight into the ground. But even if you shot them sideways, they wouldn't go more than 20 or 30 yards with any significant energy. Shotgun rounds that we use are 99% birdshot. We shoot a couple of things of buckshot. Even so, those rounds will not come anywhere close to anybody else's property, even the ones close to us, with any remaining energy. In terms of people going active shooter, if somebody decides to go active shooter, there's not a berm that's going to make a difference. They could just climb up over the berm and start shooting. But you never know who's going to go crazy. So trying to say one of our students might go crazy, well, okay, so may the guy in Walmart or your own spouse. We can't predict that, and that's impossible to plan for. So in terms of, again, the right-sided berm, the way the property works is we kind of angle downward. The property angles back up to that side. It doesn't go as high as the berm, but it does go up to the average height where our bullets are. You can see it. And it's a long ways. Could somebody hit a house? Yes. Somebody could hit a house. Is it likely? It's not likely. We cannot rule anything out. You can't rule out that one of the neighbors that's not even associated with us might shoot around. As a doctor, we see people shoot themselves all day long. Once a week, we have a self-inflicted gunshot. Somebody shot it. That could be your neighbor. At least our students intend to shoot into a berm. I can't 100% predict that nobody will ever do anything bad. But if somebody does go active shooter on our range, we have a lot of highly trained people that could deal with that really fast. And that's about all I can say about that. But I appreciate the the other thing that I wanted to say is we never wanted this rezoning. I would be perfectly happy to continue as we are without the rezoning, if that's an option. There are a couple of people here who were only worried really about the rezoning. I don't want it. I'm here because I was told that was the best way to keep the range going. If we can keep the range going without the rezoning, hey, we'll do that, but I need to know that we can do that. Otherwise, I want to do the rezoning.
Quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do with your spent shells?
So the spent shells are in the gravel pit, and we pick up a lot of them every year. I bring my kids out, pay them to fill buckets up with them, but a lot of them just become gravel. Yeah, it's just brass and steel, empty shells. Yep.
No lead?
Well, no, the lead goes into the berm.
Okay.
The lead gets buried in the berm. You can't even see it. It goes in deep enough. So.
I also have a question.
Yes, sir.
When you realized you had a problem with, what was going on out there, did staff suggest the rezoning, or how did you come to?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly how it went down, but it was brought to our attention. I believe that was how it was brought to our attention, that the gun range, that our property wasn't zoned appropriately for a gun range. And yeah, we had a letter, and they were worried about our tent, and we had to get a fire department to check out our tent and make sure that people could walk out where there weren't any sides safely without getting burned. And we had to, and that's when we found out. And in regards to, everyone keeps saying, oh, it makes so much money, why didn't you do with it? Well, we only have a few classes and a few students. The students pay a lot of money, but we only have a handful of them. And we pay a lot of money in insurance. We have to have porta-johns. We have a $5,000 tent that got destroyed when the wind got bad. We had to replace. All the targets cost money. All these things cost money. And then if there's any left, we pay experts to teach us more so that we can become better teachers. That's where the money goes. I don't have any left. I lost money last year. I'll lose money this year probably. Right now, I'm hoping to be able to pay all the bills with the tuition I get for the rest of the year. Anyway.
Thank you. So at this time, I am closing the public hearing, and we'll turn it back over to the commission.
Nathan, we talked earlier today about the definition of a school, and I appreciate the Board of Zoning Appeals viewing it as a brick and mortar, but it seems to me this is every bit of an educational institution, and with being zoned ag, it just makes sense that a special exception for an educational institution under the zoning of ag would be more appropriate than a rezoning. That's, I mean, unless you have anything else to add that would change my mind.
Ultimately, the ordinance is written by the commissioners, and you're one of three. So, yeah, it was not a good fit, and we didn't really want to look at rezoning without looking at the special exception options first. And that's what ultimately it was, well, special exceptions by themselves weren't quite a good fit. So then you look at the zoning component of it. If you as the Plan Commission and commissioners then want to refine the ordinance, you have that legislative authority. You also have authority if you feel like the ordinance as a rezoning wouldn't quite fit. I guess they can kind of give the directive to the BZA that, well, it's not really a rezoning, it's more of a special exception. Both have some interpretive capabilities of your own ordinance. So I'm hedging here because this is really not a use that is described. And so it's a hard fit.
Yeah.
Chad, I appreciate, because I think it's a generational thing when you think of things as brick and mortar. And we've seen such a uptick in where things aren't brick and mortar anymore, more virtual learning, more this. And I do applaud them for their education in firearm safety. I believe there's a lot of questions from the public. Just on a note, I can walk out any day of the week and hear my neighbors. You know, and I am privileged because I have been able to squeeze off 2 rounds on a 50 cal. And, you know, that we did that in a safe area with a berm and that. But also I'm unfortunate that I am a gun accident victim. So I understand what they are trying to do, what they are trying to teach. And with the population, rural population not doing as much hunting anymore and that, and understanding that people from Fort Wayne do not have access to places to do this, and them coming in to take classes. As the one gentleman said, all the roads is paved with good intentions. I do like the special exception because there are conditions that can be put with it, as for time of day, lighting, such as the light, or to limit no shooting after dark and that, and plus to help with sound and other safety aspects.
And I just want to make sure that whether we go rezoning, the route special exception would still be required. The question that Commissioner Banks mentioned is basically, is it rezoning plus special exception, or is it just special exception under AG?
So it would be special exception under
Either, yeah. And a lot, as I mentioned earlier, technical details, the height of the berm, those things are really BZA special exception details, unless you want to have commitments or conditions as part of the zone.
I think there's some hesitancy to rezone the Parks and Rec in the middle of all this AG, and I think I'm getting the sense from most of the, if not all, the planning commission. What are our options tonight if we don't want to rezone, other than just a straight no vote?
Well, this is a recommendation to the commissioners, so we can send a favorable and unfavorable or no decision. We can't, or we can vote together more information and have it come up at next month's meeting too. Those are the options. There's basically 4.
Yep, exactly. Thank you.
And I would like to say that I don't think that the rezonings, I don't think that it's probably the appropriate thing here. I'm not opposed to spot zoning. I know most of the commission is. That doesn't really bother me. But I think if you'd went and got the zoning or looked into the zoning or looked at what you were doing in the first place, that I think there would have been some more guidance and rules that would have been suggested or put into place. I've been a firearms instructor and trained hundreds of people for over 25 years. And I would tell you, you need a 4-sided range. You need a high berm 4-sided range, and it needs to be baffled. And if you don't, it's not safe. So I wouldn't be in favor of supporting this request just based on the fact that there's too many Whitley County people that live all the way around you that I agree with them that they are not safe. So that's my opinion on it. If it goes to BZA, I would hope that there would be some conditions that this range would be held to the same standard as what the police range is here in Whitley County. 4-sided baffles and all the other precautions. So that's my opinion. So it's back to the commission.
So if we would deny the request, would they go back to the BZA for a special exception if we would keep it under ag, or how exactly would that work?
they can move forward with this to the commissioners, because we're just gonna do a favorable or unfavorable pass to the commissioners.
Okay.
So the commissioners could refuse it, and then they could go back and start another process with BZA. But it's not really, I mean, it's not our job.
They'll probably want
To
to see what
tell them to
happens
do
with the
that.
commissioners first, though, to decide what they ask for as special exception. So they'll probably wait until that process plays out to go to the BZA, right? To
Yeah.
know which.
You're hitting on why this is difficult, because it's not explicitly listed in the code. We're trying to fit a use in that in some ways feels like it should be an ag use, and in other ways it should have more scrutiny to it. I think we're really hitting on, we do need to amend the ordinance and say, this is what we do, but that takes time.
I would,
think
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like with the information we have tonight, that we just send it on to the commissioners with no recommendation, is my opinion.
I don't disagree with that, because when you look at the special exception uses under both designations, church, public, or school, public or private is listed under both. And if we're actually focusing on training, I would hope that we wouldn't have to rezone.
Do you think they could make an interpretation of what school is? Just so we have more of a directive?
Nathan, I can't hear what you're saying.
Sorry, I was asking legal counsel if it'd be appropriate for the planning commission to do an interpretation of your own code, or if that's exclusive to the BZA. Yeah, they're the judicial, but they're the legislative. Sorry to digress for a
But the
second.
interpretation goes to enforcement,
Right.
which is BZA. So they can, I mean, they can say what they meant, I guess.
That's true.
But as far as the authority of from the BZA interprets it, I'm not exactly sure.
So what I think we might be able to say is you could do a recommendation or no recommendation or continue it. And then also do a formal, this is what we meant by private public school or one of these other things to help clarify what the special exception under AG might be.
Do you think so the interpretation would be, this is what we meant by this when the ordinance was passed, or? Because it would be, what did the commissioners interpret school or educational facility to be intent when it was passed, right?
Yes.
And this is all it's what.
Yeah, and that'll then give everyone the understanding of, in a similar case like this, that is screening, it constitutes, say, a private school. And therefore it could be a special exception under that guise. Still has all the scrutiny we've talked about, but it falls under that label.
I move for no recommendation on 23W rezone 3.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Well, further discussion.
For the record, who was the second? Thank you.
I guess I feel strongly enough about it that I would like to send myself a message to the commissioners that it's unfavorable. It's just not no recommendation. It's an unfavorable one, because I'm definitely in the category of unfavorable. But in the course of having a motion and a second and moving to further discussion, two of the commissioners have already heard that. So I don't think that that's really.
I would agree with what Thor said. The talk of the school is to be is, yes, they're teaching. That's neither here nor there. What we're dealing with now is this issue of Parks and Rec. You know, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. So it's the issue of that. and whether going about this a different way where the county could put some standards to something like this is more appropriate if it moves forward, is my thoughts, like Thor was talking.
And the purpose of me asking about schools, because frankly, I'm not in favor of rezoning. But I am in favor of what they do. I like what they do, so.
I am too.
I just don't think, I think there's a path forward for them without rezoning the Parks and Rec.
I would agree with that sentiment.
But how do we get there?
Mr. President, if you don't mind, could we just take a straw vote of the members who feel that this is representative of a school as defined in the zoning code? Those who.
Well, I don't know that this is really an appropriate time for that with a motion in a second and further discussion on the table. So I wouldn't be against having that discussion, but we already have a motion that needs to be voted on.
After discussion, I'd like to amend my motion to unfavorable recommendation.
It hasn't been voted on yet, so I'll allow you to withdraw it, but not amend it. You could withdraw, and we could withdraw the second, and then another motion could be made. So
a new motion, I would like to make it unfavorable recommendation on 23W rezoning 3.
Second. Well, before we get there, I still need the second to be withdrawn from the first motion that you withdrew, please.
Withdraw.
Okay, so we're there. You have the second motion for unfavorable. You have the second, you have a new motion for unfavorable, and I have a second on that from Mr. Drew. So now we'll open that up for further discussion.
I think we're ready for a vote.
Yes, ma'am. Good call. All right, hearing none, we'll go to the roll call for vote, please.
Okay. Let's see. Mark Johnson.
Aye.
Kim Kurtz-Seslar.
Aye.
Joe Wolf.
Aye.
Travis Baker.
Aye.
Ted Banks.
Aye.
Dane Drew.
Aye.
Brent Emerick.
Aye.
Jack Green.
Aye.
And Thor Hodges.
Aye.
Okay, that passes 9-0, so we will certify an unfavorable recommendation to the commissioners. So to Joe's kind of asking about the special exception thing, is there more commentary to forward on about that, or do we let that lie?
I think there has to be some commentary to it to let the other members of the commission, or the commissioners, know what we are thinking as a
I would offer that I would disagree with that based on the fact that we as a commission have made a decision. And we report to the commissioners. That's our job as a body, to do the homework, to make the decisions, to pass it back to them. And I think we have done that. And I think if there is further work for us to do, it would be at their direction once they receive this decision.
I agree. I concur with that. I sit here and I think, okay, as commissioner, the commissioners have more work to do. And need to, I think, more clearly define school, and we need to look more into zoning for other potential shooting ranges in the county and how we will consistently move forward with all of them. So I appreciate what you're saying, Joe, but I think at this point, the commissioners have more work to do.
Okay, I just wondered about the petitioner and what they could expect, so.
Yeah, but I think either way, I think it's appropriate for it to go for a special exception.
Yeah.
But I think we have some work to do. before it goes to the BZA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nathan, do you have any other business, please?
No, I don't. Thank you for asking.
Is anything for the good of the cause from the commission, please? We stand adjourned.